Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the GeekVerse podcast. Very special Saturday edition of our newscast. I feel like we don't normally do newscasts on a Saturday. I am one of your hosts, the King of Rohan, Kirklin, and I'm joined by
I am the Adam Hart predictor, Dylan
a
Muss.
little switch up on your classic name. I
Yeah, a
like
little
it. A
bit
little
of
variation.
something old, something new,
I
mashing
like it.
together.
I like it. Yeah, it's not a major shift where it's like, oh, what happened to the Adam Hart caster? But it's still there. So yeah, no, we got a fun episode today. Just the two of us on a nice Saturday. It's gonna be nice and chill. Our main topic today is Thor: Love and Thunder predictions, which
Oh yeah.
I can't believe that movie's like right around the corner. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
I just saw it so far away, and then we've been seeing like a lot of movies and just being busy in general, like these last couple months. And June is just super packed. Travis likes to say we have like 45 podcasts in 30
Mm-hmm.
days, which is just insane. And all that content is for you, the viewers, the audio listeners, the video listeners, wherever you get us. Especially, I guess I should get all the plugs out of the way. So if you love what we do and you want to support us even further, the best way to do that is on Patreon for sure. There you get ad-free, exclusive, early content, a lot of extra shows we started doing, like our original shows. We just recorded the
Mm-hmm.
second one
That was fun.
this last week. That was lots of fun. Those are, again, just like, especially when we can get like the main original crew back. You know, we got you, Jessica, myself, Travis Taylor. Like it's just great to just to not even have like a topic really. Just like, I mean,
Yeah.
this time around it was talking about Taylor's burglar or like car. What would
Yeah.
you call that?
Well, I
The
will say it was probably the most in-depth discussion on garage sales that a podcast has ever done. Unless there's like a garage sale podcast out there that exists, but
I highly doubt it. I feel like it's a very niche genre, and to like have a full show dedicated to that. I mean, like
mm-hmm.
we had a good in-depth episode of it, but yeah, to have a
Yeah.
full show centered around garage sales, I feel like that's pretty tough to do. But yeah, no, that was lots of fun, lots of laughs. Is just the normal with us. So yeah, on Patreon. What else am I forgetting? Oh yeah, and speaking of Patreon, I'd like to give a major big shout out to our Patreon producers. We got Aaron Braden, April of Darkness, Carl Ritchie, Smalley Biggs. They're the
Legends.
highest tier in our Patreon, keeping the lights on and just super awesome people. And since Travis isn't here, I can actually say Carl's a really cool dude. So yeah, go check out our Manscaped. Use the GV promo code or the GV promo code, the promo code GVPOD. You get yourself 20% off worldwide shipping. We all love our products from them, and I think you will too if you try that out. You can find us on Geekverse Cast, or sorry, I always get them mixed up. GeekVerse.ca is our web page. That's where you can get our landing page for just links to everything. Our
Mm-hmm.
Twitter, Facebook. Speaking of Twitter, we are on Geekverse Cast. Our Facebook is Geekverse Podcast. And yeah, that's where you can find us. If you're listening to us on whatever podcasting streaming service, then that's awesome. Yeah, and just tons of content coming around. We got movies reviews. We got. I just watched Spiderhead last night. Dylan, do you remember that movie?
Mm.
It's the new Netflix one with Chris Hemsworth and Miles Teller.
Yeah, I haven't heard about it in the past. I've seen it on our calendar, but I haven't really looked into it. But we watched Bridesmaids last night, so
Oh,
when we
nice, classic.
went to Netflix, I saw that on there. I was like, oh yeah, that's happening. Review of that's happening.
I will say
So
because
it
you've
looks all
seen,
right.
yeah, you've seen Bad Times at the El Royale, right?
Oh yeah.
I would say it's like it's some nice Chris Hemsworth from that, like just him
Mm.
being like a little goofy and
Not
wild.
like the
And
same director, but just like the same style character. You mean?
yeah, I don't think it is the same director.
I
That'd
wonder
be
what that
wild.
director is working on next. I feel like I
It's a
should
good
know
question.
because I probably will like whatever that is too.
Yeah, great movie. That was a movie that even Shay liked, and she doesn't really like thrillers or type movies
Mm-hmm.
like that. So Chris Hemsworth was amazing. But anyways, yeah, no, Travis and I think are dropping a review for that on Sunday. I'm seeing
Spicy.
Buzz Lightyear later today. I'm very excited. Or I think it's just called Lightyear.
Yeah, I think it's just
Yeah,
just let you.
I'm very excited for that one. We're gonna be dropping a review for that, and yeah, we got our Miss Marvel retros, Obi-Wan retros, just so much content. So without further ado, I think it's a good time to just jump right into our main topic at hand, which is Thor: Love and Thunder predictions. Let me get my little notepad up because I had them all right here. Of course. Here it is. So, yeah, just on the topic of me speaking about all these big movies that have been coming out, we have some like numbers specifically around Marvel. I guess I should say like our first talking point for this will be just what do you think the Thor's box office is going to be Dylan. So here's just for some examples, like Black Widow, Eternals, Shang-Chi was all around 65 to 75 million. Strange was 185 million. That's a big jump right there. And then No Way Home 260. So Thor: Love and Thunder, Chris Hemsworth as the character of Thor. He's an original Avengers member, so I feel like that's a big pull there. But just in general, like what are you feeling? Just the vibe, like general audience rush to go see this. Like, do you think that's up there? Do you think this is still, because it's like Taika Waititi, like it's gonna be a bit of a weird movie that maybe not everybody's gonna be pushing or rushing out to go see it? We got Natalie Portman back. That's super exciting for myself. But yeah, what do you think initially the box office is gonna be looking like?
I think it's going to do pretty well. I don't think it'll beat that Spider-Man number, but I think it'll clear 200 million easily, which would, I guess, put it in that number 2 slot in terms of the post COVID movies, I suppose. But I mean, this one, it's just hard to compare with Spider-Man, but I think it like kind of easily has the layup on those ones because of what you mentioned, just like the cast there, and also like Christian Bale's in there. That's like another big name you can throw in there, and he looks similar enough that like if he's on the poster and stuff, people will be like, "Oh shit, Batman's in this movie." Like, I gotta check that out. So I think it'll have that success, and then I mean Taika as a director has just like with each project, I think been getting more notoriety, and now he's doing Star Wars stuff in a way, so people know him more from there. So I feel like this movie's gonna do pretty damn well. I just feel like it's pretty hard to contest with Spider-Man when you got all the Spideys together and you got the Green Goblin back and all these other characters. I don't know. I could see it like getting up there in the long term, maybe in like the coming weeks or something, because I feel like looking at the rest of the calendar for July, I don't think there's too many huge movies coming out. Like there is some stuff here or there, but I don't know if there's another big blockbuster to contend with Thor. And I guess Spidey didn't really have much either, but it came out around Christmas time, right? So that can be maybe, I don't know, good or bad depending on the context. But I feel like a big summer blockbuster, if Thor just sticks around until like the end of August, like we got She-Hulk coming out, that'll get people excited on MCU stuff again, and like boom. I don't know. I feel like it's due for a pretty damn good summer.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point of like there's not a lot of big things like after it, so I think the longevity of it could actually be pretty good, especially if just word of mouth, people go see it and they just are blown away. Like it's got that just nice. For me, I like the visuals. I think the aesthetic that they're going for is really really fun. So you got Chris Pratt's Star-Lord in there, and people love Guardians, so like that's gonna help a lot as well. I think this is gonna do absolutely fantastic as well. It's tough for me to like right off the hop just push it above Doctor Strange, because I think going into that movie there was so many like just wonders on who could possibly make a cameo in this, so I feel like that was drawing a lot of people into it, just the fact that it was a multiverse. Obviously almost everyone went and saw Spider-Man No Way Home because of those numbers, and like that was talking a lot about the multiverse stuff, and I think leaving that movie, it's like, oh man, with all the people that were in this, like what could happen in Doctor Strange. So it's a little bit tough for me to put it above Doctor Strange right now, but on the other hand, like I honestly
doesn't the kind of niche market aspect of Doctor Strange take it down? No, when you're just looking strictly at opening weekend, like maybe that affects it less, where people don't even know what to expect at that time. But I think, like we talked about this a lot with like parents or something, should I bring my kid to this? And the answer being no, just takes away a lot of their market. Whereas I don't think Thor. I mean, we saw him like he's like naked in a scene, but I mean, I think that'll be pretty tame still, and kids will go see that. So I don't know. I feel like it's gonna have maybe less barriers than Doctor Strange did in that way.
That's a really good point, because Sam Raimi like made that a horror movie, and like a lot of people credit that movie for just how like dark it actually went. Like there's a lot of just wild visuals of like, wow, I can't believe this is actually happening in like a Marvel movie right now. I think they're pushing, like they're dancing along the line of like how much they could really pull off on that one. So that is a good point, because that makes it a little bit less I don't know, lack of a better term, but just like appropriate for all general audiences. But like just the humor of Taika, some people really hate the humor of Taika, but I think overall a lot of people just like the silliness and uniqueness that he brings to his movies. And like you have like Chris Hemsworth. I like honestly, I feel like that character is just a lot bigger than Doctor Strange, at least right now. Just because he's been around longer. I don't even know if that's like a controversial opinion. I just feel like that's the way it is. Chris Hemsworth just has more star power than Benedict.
Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
think so. Well, he's
Yeah.
been, a core Avenger since the beginning,
Yeah.
right? So that I don't know. He's just had that staying power too. I mean, Doctor Strange has been in a lot of projects too, but even some of those extra ones are just kind of more cameos, whereas he always has a big role in the movies that he is in. That he is
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. Absolutely. Um. So yeah, I I think it's gonna be really close around that 185 slot, which is
Mm.
same with Doctor Strange. Um, might be a cheat answer if I have to choose one or the other. I think I'm gonna give the advantage to Thor.
Nice.
Slightly above. So yeah, I'll probably put it in that number 2 slot like you did. Let's check out in the chat here. All in the Game brought up Jordan Peele's movie Nope. I think that comes out in July as well.
Mm.
So
Does it?
like I definitely think that is going to be a hit just because Jordan Peele's name, like it just draws a lot of people in. But the big thing with that is that if I'm not mistaken, I think it's R rated, so that obviously cuts out a lot
Right.
of the audience of people that can go see it. So that'll just like
July
it,
22nd apparently for that
okay.
one. So
Thanks
okay,
for
it
looking
is in
that up.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think right away that cuts down like the competition between those two movies quite a bit because like Thor is the family movie, and then you're not going to be bringing. It's like, oh, kids, do we want to go see Thor or do we want to go see Nope? Like, I think those conversations aren't exactly happening there. But no, I honestly completely forgot that movie's coming out right away. Have you seen like any trailers or anything for that? I know it's
Yeah, I
not
mean, just
really
because
what we're
they
talking about, but
play it at beginning of every
yeah.
at the beginning of every movie, but I think they released a new one, right? And I haven't seen that one.
Yeah.
I guess like the announced one or the release date trailer, whatever they've called, like the last one before the movie comes out. I haven't.
Ye-
I've intentionally not watched that one, so hopefully
that's
I can go
good.
in with a few more surprises because I feel like the first one already showed quite a bit. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, he is a director at the point where I don't need to see anything. Like I'll go see it, but
Right.
kind of just comes up on the podcast and before every movie, so it's been hard to avoid. Nope.
Oh, absolutely. And like I got that new one, which I thought was just so revealing. Like there's a
Oh,
lot of
okay.
shots just like, oh man, like I knew this was gonna happen because it was almost like they took. It's funny how we're just talking about Nope now, but like it's funny how they took like moments from the first trailer and then they just like revealed a little bit more. It's like this isn't
Mm,
necessary at all. Like as you mentioned, Jordan Peele
right.
just has that name where I'm gonna be going to see his movies
Yeah.
if I'm interested in them. So all right, and then just more chats here. We got S Bubs. I think it should be compared to Ragnarok and Volume 2's, as in Guardian of the Galaxy Volume 2's box office. A little bit plus a little more since they're together. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Combination of those movies. I'm curious how much the Guardians are actually going to be in it. I guess specifically
I
Chris
don't
Pratt.
think very much. I think
Yeah.
I don't know if we're gonna talk about this in the predictions part, but probably like gone within the first 20 minutes. I would think.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it'll just be like them interacting with it, and it's just like, not exactly this line.
I
But
don't
it's like,
think
go
they're
do your
like
own thing.
coming to save the day at the end of the movie. Like
No, that'd be
they're just
weird.
gonna send him off essentially, and then maybe show up later. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We'll talk about that later. But
Yeah.
I don't think much. I think it's just like a big marketing thing as well. Like obviously they put that in the teaser before the trailer. I hate all these terms for ways to advertise the movie. But I mean, I think they're trying to get like I don't even know what's the poster like. Are they all over that? Let me look that up.
The guard, yeah, yeah. Look it up. It's a really nice poster, actually. I quite like it. You have Christian Bale, Gore the God Butcher, just like kind of in the background, almost looking like the Watcher in like the
Yeah,
top
very
left
much
corner.
so.
I
Yeah,
believe.
there's no Guardians
There's
on
no
this
Guardians.
poster.
Okay.
I mean, maybe there is a Guardians version of the poster that has something on there, but the fact that they're not even in the poster makes me think that don't expect too much from them.
No, absolutely not. It's funny though because like I'm curious how much.
It doesn't even have their names listed at the top, like
Oh,
Chris
there you
Pratt.
go.
So yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think they're marketing it necessarily that way,
Yeah,
which is
I'd
weird because the
agree.
trailers definitely want you to know that they're in there. So interesting.
Yeah, and then like even in that first trailer, they show that shot of like it looks like I apologize, I forget the Guardian's ship's name, but you just see it like flying
Mm.
off, and then it's just like, oh, now he's doing his own adventure.
Yeah.
It's just so funny how like I think that was the first trailer they showed that, and then because with how Endgame leaded, it's like, oh, they're gonna go on their own adventure, and like the very first trailer they show a point of emphasis like first 30 seconds. It's like, nope, they completely fuck off.
Mm.
It's just Thor doing his own thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right on. So yeah, tacked on a couple of little other questions on top of the box office one there. Moving along. Um, yeah. So moving along, we got. Will any characters die, hero or villain? Um, Maybe I'll start off here.
Mm-hmm.
I really hope that Gore the God Butcher doesn't die. I could definitely see him dying just because it's Christian Bale, and I
He's
don't
dead.
think.
Yeah, he's gone.
Yeah. Well, you know Dylan's thoughts. I really hope they don't, and like not even necessarily because I want Christian Bale back. I just think that character is such like a big deal character. Like he butchers gods. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
pretty fucking powerful in my eyes. So I feel like just the possibility of him being somewhere like in limbo or then maybe possible, you know, movies down the line, like he kind of breaks out and started causing things, and maybe he's at the point where he doesn't even look the same. So then you can
Mm.
like you could have that excuse on why Bale might not be back in the future. But I just think the character is really, really interesting for me. And I think a possible like concern I have is like this movie isn't going to be long enough to like tell his whole story, and he's just going to be like a villain type character, even though he is like really, really interesting from at least like the limited knowledge I have of him from the
Mm-hmm.
comics. So that's like a hope. But as you mentioned, like I think there's just a lot of things on paper pointing towards why he would die. It's a very tragic character, so you know, just give him, just let him go live in peace, or
Mm-hmm.
not live in peace, rest in peace. So yeah, Dylan, you shared your thoughts on at least one character there. I guess I should have mentioned for like any other hero type characters, there's none really pointing like jumping out at me right now. I could see maybe I don't want it to happen, but like maybe someone like Korg or like Meek or something, just to like have like a really, you know, it's a side character, but like it would
Mm-hmm.
still be really like heavy if one of those characters died on screen, just because I think everybody kind of loves them.
Can
But
Korg die?
it's a great question.
How do you
He's like
kill Korg? Because I feel
he's
like if you
like
chop off any part of him, then that whatever pebbles are left it becomes him. It's kind of like
I
Groot
would
in a way.
love that if that happened, and then we just like going forward, we just get a multiple of Korgs, and they're just all like Taika's voice, and maybe like a small one has like a really
I
high
would love
pitched.
if you just put his head, his little like pebble head on a keychain, and then he just puts that on Thor's
Oh
belt,
my
and that's like
gosh,
so he can just
that's
comment
so
on
good.
things and be there. Yeah.
And like great merch possibility too. Like everybody's gonna be
Mm.
wanting to buy those keychains.
People
Of
are like, why do you
Korg.
have just rocks on the side of your pants?
I think that'd be really, really funny. Honestly, it would it'd have the humor. Like it would have the emotional moments if you like think he's about to die, and then it's just like, oh no, I'm good. Similar to like how we thought Meek died in
Mm-hmm.
forgot what movie even that one was, but yeah, he ended up being fine. But
Yeah.
I'll pass it along to you, Dylan. Any other characters like jumping out at you initially? You mentioned Christian Bale's character. You
Well,
think
yeah, I
is
think I just don't see Christian Bale coming back. I think you will see Gore again. What if makes the most sense to me.
mm,
You put him in an episode there, like what if he teamed up with this person, or what if he was good, or what if his family didn't, whatever, get destroyed, whatever happened there, whatever the backstory is. But even then, I don't see Christian Bale voicing that. I think you get someone else to do that.
yeah.
It's one of those characters that I could see coming back in like 10 years or something for some weird, whatever. It's like a secret invasion thing. I don't know what it would be. Secret Wars, like something like that, where it's just some ragtag team of like multiverse villains or something. Maybe something like that, but I don't think it's anytime in the future. So I think they will definitively like, well, not definitively, but they will kill him off here. But then because of multiple timelines, universes, all that stuff, he could always just come back again in the future. But as you're saying, like if like it wouldn't necessarily have to be him. Like it could be a different look of the character. It could be not Christian Bale as we saw with Loki. How it could like just be a different actor essentially playing the same character. So
Right.
we could see something like that, but I don't think it would be anytime soon. As for other characters, yeah, you mentioned Meek, and that's kind of who I'm feeling. Who sadly I put on my character draft, and when we did our drafts, I put the wrong name. I said Doug, and everyone's like, "Oh yeah, I know Doug." It's like Doug's actually the dead guy in the joke. That's like a throwaway joke, but you guys all were like, "Okay, we'll let you have Meek since
Yeah.
we know that's who you meant." I have Meek on my list. I don't think he's shown up in any of the marketing so far, and that's what concerns me. I did pick the character as I like. Okay, he's a small character. I think he'd appear unannounced, and that's like where I was going for, and I hope for the points on that one. But now that the more I think about it, the closer we get, I feel like he's a character that is unannounced appearance, but then he just dies, and he's so small of a character and so irrelevant that it could just be a throwaway joke or something that he dies. And so that's where I don't think it'll be a big emotional beat. I think it would just be something that happens maybe early on. So I hope he's if I do get the unannounced appearance, or I guess I'll ask, is he in the newest trailer?
Um,
Or was there? Or
if
sorry,
he
was
is,
there?
it's like very minorly. Maybe someone in the
Yeah,
chat can correct me.
I
But
think I don't think there actually has been a trailer since. I think there's maybe has there been like TV spots or anything? I don't think he's been shown off in any marketing, is what I'm getting at.
yeah, I don't think so.
So I think I might get some unannounced points there, but then he might die, so I'll get minus 10 points, and my draft's not looking good. So I
No.
need a win here.
Oh, here
Um,
we got S-Bubs in the chat. Meek has been in the marketing. First trailer seems to be Valkyrie's secretary. That's
Oh,
right. He
dang,
was
he
dressed like a
has been?
secretary. Yeah,
Okay,
very, very minorly.
I feel like he was in the background, so that sucks. I'm not gonna get the 15 points. Whatever I'd have to look back at our thing. As for other characters, I don't think anyone else dies. I don't
Yeah.
know who. Like maybe what's it? Russell Crowe is the actor. I think like maybe his
Zeus.
character, yeah, Zeus or someone in that world, like just random characters like that.
Right.
But I don't think anyone of substance, like any MCU characters, as you would say. I don't think any of those people are getting the boot here. And Korg, I think Korg's pretty safe. I don't know. Maybe would Taika kill off his own character?
If I was him, I wouldn't. I would
Yeah.
keep doing that forever.
I think
mean,
it's
Korg's gonna outlaw.
it's such an easy role, right? Like I think you want to keep yourself around.
He's gonna outlast everybody. He's stronger than everybody. You know, as you mentioned,
Exactly.
he can't ever die. He's just gonna keep
He
multiplying.
just erodes. But he's
Like
always
Hydra, cut off one head, two more
Yeah.
grow.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I agree with you because I feel like this movie, like there's certain movies when you get like the first trailer, it's just like, oh man, like this character is gonna be like dying. Like you can just have a feel. Like this one, it really just feels like Thor's own personal journey. And yeah, like characters like Valkyrie, like I think she's been in it for a little bit now, and she's really established as like a more relevant character. But I still feel like we have so much more to go with that character.
Yeah,
A lot of
she
people
hasn't
love
had
Tessa
her moment
Thompson.
yet.
No, exactly. Jane being back, like I think that would be a huge missed opportunity if they just bop her right away. Because it's just so exciting to have her back and have her as Mighty Thor now. Like it's just really, really exciting. So I agree with you. I think like any returning characters are safe. I definitely think we're going to be seeing a lot of gods get butchered, pun intended, by gore. And I definitely think Russell Crowe's character is going to be right at the top of the list. Because I remember when we like first saw him, it was someone in the chat, I forget who's, but they're like, I feel like all of these characters that are shown like in the trailer, like the gods wise, are just going to get boffed at some point. And I definitely could see that happening. So yeah, I agree. I don't think anyone too significant will die, other than Gore, but we'll see what happens. All in the game, Lady Sif death. I don't think so. She hasn't been
God, is
like
she still alive? I don't even know what the hell's going on.
she was last in Loki, if I'm not mistaken, and she had a cool little character moment
that's
there.
True. Yeah, I forgot about that cameo.
Like I guess so, because she hasn't really, like, it is possible that they could kill her off, because it's someone that like Thor knows, and it would be like pretty torn on if
But
she
like,
did
what's the
die.
context? She shows up after years of being nowhere just to be like, I'm here to help, and then she just dies. I guess that did happen with the rest of that like Warriors trio, or whatever the fuck they're called. But I don't know. Like,
Warriors
what
3.
what would be the point of that? I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be a wild appearance, and like she should have just stayed on vacation. she comes in trying to help out, gets bopped instantly. All in the Game brought up an interesting comment, and I don't know what your thoughts or knowledge on Fantastic Four, but he just asked like, has the Thing ever died? And I don't have much knowledge with Fantastic Four. I've never seen him die personally, but it made me do a quick Google, and apparently he has died when Ultimate Reed in Ultimate Doom's body. I love in the comics when they do stuff like that. It's just like this really good character is now in the evil guy's body, and he's just popping off on everybody. Apparently he rips off the Thing's arms and beats him to shit, and he just murders him that way. I'm like, man,
wow.
Wonder if we ever get a moment like that in the MCU. Probably not, but
That'd be pretty wild. The difference is, I mean, the Thing is a dude who turns into a rock, where I think Korg is born as a little pebble, right?
yeah,
I assume. I actually
I like
don't
to
know.
picture that he started as like a little grain of sand, and then he just eventually like Geodude or something like that.
Yeah,
He's a Geodude at one
his
point.
evolution.
Just like a big rock with arms. I hope that's a canon. It's now a my head canon thing. It's a funny thought. All right. Any other last minute things on
I
characters?
don't think anyone's dying, so I don't think
Yeah.
I have much to share there. Yeah.
Right on. I will move us on to our next prediction after this quick ad break. So we'll be right back. And we are right back. So moving along, we have another one. Dylan Musk, will Jane still be Thor when the film ends? So she has her Mjolnir. Obviously, like our Chris Hemsworth Thor has Storm. Oh my gosh, no,
Breaker.
Stormbreaker. Thank you. I was about to get tomatoed on stage. Stormbreaker. So yeah, like they have their own weapons, their own
Mm-hmm.
Thor type of aesthetic look to them. Once this movie's over, are we still gonna have Natalie Portman, Jane Foster as Mighty Thor?
I think so. Yeah, I don't know what the. I think it'd be just really disappointing if the story was that she does like, comes around, she has all this glory, she's powerful, and then like somehow loses it. I don't know what the motivation for them to do that story would be. That would feel pretty lame, especially because I feel like the MCU could use like a few more women who are like front and center for like the team ups or like other big crossover things. I know we do have
Absolutely.
quite a few now, but we also have lost some in recent years. So
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see her stick around. I hope she does. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess our next question is maybe what will happen with her, but yeah, I think she definitely is going to keep her powers at the end of this movie,
Yeah,
and
and
Mjolnir and all that.
yeah, I agree. I completely agree with your comments saying that it would just be such a waste. Like if if we go through all this effort to bring her back and then it's just she's just kind of like not even necessarily killed off. It's just she's just done with that. Like, are you kidding
Mm-hmm.
me? Like you showed us greatness. We were this close, and then you just sweep it away from us. Like, and I also think it's going to be something that evolves possibly into her own spin-off thing, whether it's her own movie or her own like Disney Plus series. I
Mm-hmm.
definitely think she's gonna be popping off in like the next What If. Because it's just such a great concept, and I'm assuming she's been in the comics and stuff, but I've never seen it. I love Natalie Portman, so like this
Mm-hmm.
character, when I first heard the news that she was gonna be like Mighty Thor, it's just I was so jazzed and super super looking forward to it. So I would be honestly, I'd be probably pretty gutted if it just doesn't like lead to anything
Yeah.
afterwards. Yeah, it's just so exciting, you know. And as you mentioned, like we're definitely getting just more badass female like front runners in the MCU, but we also have lost some. So
Mm-hmm.
I think also just like Natalie Portman, like she's such a great actress. She's such a powerhouse that just having her
Mm-hmm.
be like a big role in the MCU, I think that's just such a win for them and the fans because she's just so talented. She's so great. So yeah, I completely agree. I'm curious as to like the trajectory of her story after this movie, like if she's just tied to. Actually, no, I don't think she's going to be tied. I think Thor is going to be like kind of be independent going forward. And I'm not saying that he's not going to have like team ups or anything like that, but I definitely don't think the only time that we see Jane going forward is like tied to our Thor, Chris
Mm-hmm.
Hemsworth Thor. I think she'll really be like starting her own adventures, and I'm just curious what that's going to be, because I haven't experienced her in the comics, and to my understanding, I think like this version is pretty unique to the MCU. Like I don't think it's completely ripped from a comic series or anything like that. And yeah, it's just exciting. I'm very excited to have her charisma on screen and just going forward with the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
Right on. So moving all along, you brought up actually the next one. Will Jane? Oh my gosh, I reread that one. Or I guess just like what's going on with Jane? Like, is that what
Her
you asked?
trajectory, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
her trajectory. That's kind of what I was talking about. Do you have
Yeah.
anything to add on there?
Yeah. I think the next time we see her will be her solo adventure. In some way, I think if that's a TV show, you could see Thor at some point. I don't know if they would do a movie of just her. So I feel like whatever it is, if it is a solo thing or at least focused on her, and it was a TV show, I don't think Thor would necessarily be in it. But I think if she is in like some sort of team up movie, I think she could be someone who's somewhat front and center or someone who does get a lot of screen time. Whereas for Thor, I just don't see him going to a Disney Plus TV show.
Yeah.
Does that feel correct to you? Like
No, I agree.
I don't see him leading one. I don't see him like even really making a. I mean, I guess for a cameo, like he could. I don't know. I just don't. I guess I just don't see it happening. And I don't know if it's because he didn't show up in Loki that makes me feel that way. But
Right.
I mean, it could be a Loki season 2 thing. But I don't know. I just don't see him showing up there. And since I think that's where Jane Foster's going next, I think they're gonna be splitting up. And
Mm-hmm.
I guess part of this question we're thinking about is like, are they going to be a couple at the end? And I think for me, the answer is definitely no. I think we got to explore that already in the past, and then I think What If gave us another opportunity to look at that in, I think that was the last episode or second last episode.
Yeah.
I just finished watching What If, but I watched some of it out of
Nice.
order, so I might be a little.
Which is the
missing
beauty
it.
of that show. You can.
Yes, but then when I finished, I'm like, okay, you actually are kind of supposed to watch this in order. Like,
All right,
feel
I
like
guess by the finale, right? Because there's
there
like
are
some
quite
returning
a few
characters.
threads, but then there is some episodes that stand on their own.
Right.
But at least the last episode. Make sure you watch that one last. But yeah, I don't think there'll be a couple. I think it'll be something they allude to in future movies that they're both in, like more jokes of them. I mean, we already kind of got a lot of that in Endgame, I guess, at least from a one-sided perspective. So I think you'll see them on screen together, and I think you could see her being in the next Thor movie, but I think she'll go off and do her own adventure that is not at least highlighting Chris Hemsworth's involvement in some way. That's what I see for her.
Yeah, I feel like I was kind of torn on this because I always liked them together, like in the first Thor movie. Like I liked that just like their romance on screen. Like it was really fun for me. But I really think this movie's gonna be kind of dancing along the lines of that, like because Chris Hemsworth's Thor is gonna just be kind of shocked of like seeing her because like this is his old flame, the great line from Endgame, and and then like I really feel though from like Jane's perspective, she's really gonna have like her own duty, her own like like just path of what she's doing with her own character, so she won't really have time to just like be in a romantic relationship because she's just like doing something. And I think that'll be a big moment in this movie for Chris Hemsworth. Thor is like he's still kind of lost, you know, like Endgame there obviously he was really down and out in that one, and like in this one we see like the workout montage of him like getting just fit and like kind of rediscovering himself, and I really think that's like the vibe and theme of this movie. And I think by the end of it they're gonna have some like really sweet moment of like, oh yeah, what could have been, you know, like those old lines that comes in, but I think by the end they'll be like really just happy with themselves and like always be like friends and something, but just they can't just put up their hammers and just like retire and be a couple. Definitely. Right? Like that, like they're still doing their own thing, and as I was mentioning earlier, like it's not just them being a team going forward as like two Thors. Like they're gonna be their own separate things doing stuff that's busy, and you know it's a sad thing. You know, what if one or jeez. What if that, like in another world, they could just get together and just be like a romantic relationship and not have to save the world? But that's not this what if. So I think it'll be a really nice touching moment in the movie, actually, like when that happens. And yeah, I think that's sweet. So just wanted to, I saw a chat. Oh yeah, S Bubs in the chat. He threw in the old Jeff Goldblum. I don't know why I said it like that. Jeff Goldblum character, Grandmaster. Do we think Grandmaster will be in this movie at any point in time? Dylan Musk?
So at the end of Ragnarok, was it a post-credit scene or was it just I think it was a post-credit where he just gets dumped off in the like the dumpster land.
Yeah, I think it's post-credit. That one.
And that's the last time we see him, right? I mean, I guess he's also in What If, but that's of course different timelines and stuff.
Right.
I'm gonna say no.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say no.
I'll just jump on the other camp and say yes. I think it'll be something really quick. It could possibly be. I don't think it would be an end credit, but I think it could be like a really quick thing, like some characters talking about someone, then it just goes like Jeff Goldblum as Grandmaster, and we'll just get like a couple laughs in the theater, and like that's as far as we'll go with it. I think it's just like such a well-received character that like I think it'd be really fun. It'd be really easy for Jeff Goldblum to like reprise the role for just like 2 minutes, and I think for him, I think it's probably fun to do that role. He's just kind of himself, a little bit zinier maybe as the Grandmaster, but yeah, I'm. You know, just to be different, I'll say yes. Maybe we will see him. Nice. All right, and then just catching up again on another one in the chat on the game. He was asking, do they do an A team type team up? I don't know why I read it like that. Do they have an A-Force team up with her as the leader? And then for the example, he brought up Jane, Valkyrie, Nebula, Gamora, Captain Marvel. I think that is a perfect place for like a What If or something like that, just to like have all these characters that are kind of doing their own thing, possibly just like be on screen together. Of course, that would be like a more animated avenue, but I just think like especially that cast, they're just really like far away from each other. I guess some of them are
Yeah.
kind of close, like Valkyrie and Jane for sure.
I think that wouldn't
But
make any sense for Gamora and Nebula right
yeah,
now. And there's just I'm gonna put 0% chance that Captain
yeah,
Marvel is in this movie. Uh,
yeah,
but I think this could be them laying the groundwork for it for sure. Uh,
right.
they could even have a line that alludes to it, or maybe they say I don't know if they'd say A Force. It sounds kind of cheesy in this context, I think. But I don't know. I think they're definitely laying the groundwork for something like that. But yeah, I don't think you'll see. Yeah, like I said, the Guardians are going to be in this at the start. I don't even think Gamora is going to be in here, and
No,
then you're going to be you're going to send them off. You're not going to see them again, and I don't. I guess we could talk about the post-credit stuff. Like that's maybe Guardians appear there as well, but not sure if you want to talk about that yet.
not yet. Maybe at the end. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it's a fun idea, but for this movie, it just wouldn't really make the most sense.
I also don't think that's what Captain Marvel is going to be doing, right? We already know that she's doing the Marvels with Miss Marvel and the other character I can't remember
Right.
the name of. So I just don't think she doesn't have she's already got a full-time job, you could say. I don't know if she has enough
Right.
bandwidth to do another thing like that right now.
Absolutely. All in the game. Just to clarify, he said laying the groundwork is what I meant, not in this movie. So there you go. Just planting some seeds for possibly
Sure.
team up in the future. And I think like even then, like just with that specific example or characters that he listed, it's a little bit hard for me to like piece them together going forward. But I think still it's a really fun idea, and who knows, like it could be Jane, Valkyrie, and maybe like some other people other than some characters on the list, but who knows? All right, moving along. Let's go. Will we see any other MCU characters? So, obviously, we know Chris Pratt's Star Lord's in this, but anyone that like not shown in the trailer that you're like getting a vibe that we could see, like maybe would just fit really well with where they are. I know they're in like Mount Olympus at some point. I don't really know which MCU character would be chilling there right now, but anyone at the top of your head or just that you've been stewing on? Or
I
anyone that you like, this character probably wouldn't fit, but I really just want to see them like tie in with some characters on screen.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if like wants is a weird question, right? 'Cause it's like I could just pick my favorite characters, but then it's like, does that add to the story in any way?
That's fair.
I think having pretty much all the Guardians in there, because we've seen Chris Pratt and Nebula. I don't even know. Like I guess in the background of that shot from the teaser, like it was Nebula in that shot. I think it was pretty much because I think Mantis was in there, right?
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
I'm gonna pull it up because
I think
don't
Drax
remember.
was in there. I'm guessing Rocket and Groot were in there.
I'll pull it up.
But I don't know 100% on that. And then, I mean, I don't think Gamora's in there, and I don't think she'll be in this movie in any way. So I think that's enough. Like, I don't think and bringing Jane Foster back is a huge MCU character, or at least, like, was a medium tier MCU character. Now will probably be a huge MCU level character. You got your Korgs in there. You got your Meeks, so you're getting some other recurring characters. You got Valkyrie. I don't think you do that in this movie. I think you got enough there already. I guess my big question is Loki. Obviously, Thor's brother, important character. He's been in all the other Thor movies, but Loki in this timeline is dead now. Obviously, we know there's another one, or I guess many Lokis out there that are doing stuff. So I just don't see, like, if I think about, okay, if I were writing the script, like, how would you get Loki in there in a way that makes sense and doesn't have to have some big exposition of like, oh, I'm actually from a different timeline, but like I don't really know who you are, but I died in this timeline. I don't know. There's kind of some weird stuff going on there, right?
No, absolutely. And I think like my initial thought, because that is a really fun idea, the brotherly love that was always very difficult between Loki and Thor. I could really see it could be like a cheater method, but just having like him thinking about Loki and like kind of having like a flashback of like them before they kind of hated each other and killed each other. I mean, that's probably their whole life, but I could see it going something like that.
But you mean like a new scene?
Yeah, I think it would be possibly. I don't know. They would have like them as teenagers. I don't know how that would look. As like Chris Hemsworth being like a manly man, just like trying to be like a little tight Thor. That might be weird. So maybe just like in, I don't even know, like Avengers era,
I
like do like a flashback to that.
I don't even know if that fits with the story of this. I just feel like there's so
Yeah.
much else going on. We're focusing a lot on Jane.
Yeah.
Like I think he'll definitely reference Loki or mention something that happened with them, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I guess the only way I see Loki in this movie that makes sense to me is a post credits thing that's just like setting up Loki season 2, or I don't know. I don't even
Yeah.
I can't even think of like another thing that would happen. I think that's the only thing that makes sense to me. Uh
Yeah.
yeah.
I think yours, like as you mentioned, like just for the logistics of it, I think that would make the most sense if it is an end credit scene and then like tying into another season of Loki, just going forward with the character as opposed to like showing
Mhm.
something in the past that we haven't seen before. I think just in my mind, I was picturing because again, like this character of Thor is just going through a lot of things, so maybe he's just thinking of a certain memory that like he learned a lot from in Loki or from Loki rather, and it could just be like a touching thing of them like actually
Mhm.
being brothers because that like it wasn't a lot in or that didn't happen a lot in the MCU, especially in Thor of like them having those moments, but it did happen a few times and it was really touching and nice for me personally, just to have them like actually being brothers and like not trying to kill each other. Um,
Mhm.
Again, that's another like want thing because I just like those two on screen together. So, but realistically, it's probably not a high chance.
Mhm.
All in the game mentioned Hercules. I remember there was some talk. I think in that first trailer of us just seeing like Mount Olympus, because I really don't know like anything about Hercules other than like the Disney movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, apparently that's like an MCU character, and definitely would be possible for him to
A
be in
Marvel
there. Just
character or an MCU character?
Marvel character, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I misspoke. Sometimes I combine the two, but yeah, no, a Marvel character. He has not been in the MCU yet,
Yeah.
and that's one that it would fit because they're already like at Mount Olympus. I'm very curious what other like gods we just see in general, since we're there because it's such a big place. Like we got to see
Mhm.
multiple gods, right? You would imagine.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, let's see. Oh yeah, S Bubs was clarifying. There's a TV spot showing Rocket and Groot, so all the Guardians besides Gamora has been shown.
Right.
And then he says, "I think Frigga will be in this movie in a flashback."
That's
Um,
Thor's mom, right?
yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
Definitely
A
could
new
happen.
scene or a scene we've seen before.
I feel like I'm in the camp that I don't think she would be in there because I think the moment that we had between Thor and her in Endgame was really, really sweet, really, really nice. And that was like a fresh scene in an era that we had already been to before, like with Thor 2, but it was just like an added on scene. So if we just do that again, it might just be a little bit samesies, a little bit copying of that. So if I had
Yeah.
to put my chip somewhere, I would say she's not going to be in there.
I
But
think that was like a great ending for that
yeah,
character's appearance. I mean, we did see her
absolutely.
again in What If, but once again, different thing.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Mhm.
Right on. Let's see. There we go. So since we're at the end of our predictions, let's say, what will the end credit scene be? So this is kind
Mhm.
of what you brought up there, and yeah. I mean, I guess was that your prediction that possibly
Well,
get something with Loki?
yeah. I mean, if I have to make one, okay. I guess I'll lay out what I'm thinking. I think Guardians 3, Volume 3, we could see something there, like setting up what's going on there. Just like I don't think it's the Spider-Man thing where they show a trailer for Guardians 3 because I don't even think that's started filming yet. Maybe it has. I'm not even sure.
Yeah, I think it's like in the early stages.
So I could see something there just setting it up because I guess my big question is we talked about like where Jane's going, but like what does Thor do next? Like what is his next appearance? And I was just looking at the slate of everything that's announced, and like the only thing that makes any sense to me would be Guardians, which is doing the holiday special and Volume 3. I don't know if it'd be a holiday special thing that he would show up, but like does he get teamed up again with the Guardians for Volume 3? Does he just make an appearance later in that movie as like an unannounced cameo? And then looking at the rest of the slate, like I have no idea where we'll see him next. Do you have any thoughts on when we'd see Thor next?
I think it's going to be more cosmic level. Like so your mentions of the Guardians definitely is fitting. Because I don't know, just initially I feel like Jane, like we see her kind of, if I'm not mistaken, I think we see her like in that new Asgard thing. She obviously interacts with Valkyrie a bit, so I feel like she going forward could possibly be like our Thor on Earth,
Mm.
and then like Chris Hemsworth Thor, because we've already seen him tied to Guardians. I could definitely see him going more on the cosmic scale, like going up in space and just doing adventures with them. So I
Mm-hmm.
definitely think you're like close to right on the target there. S Bubs clarified. Apparently, Guardians 3 finished filming months ago, so
Oh, okay.
we're completely wrong. So who
I
knows?
feel like I
Maybe
haven't heard
he
any
had some
leaks
stuff in
about
there.
that, so that's good.
It's a
We haven't
positive,
seen
yeah.
any we haven't seen any footage of that yet, so maybe they're still in the editing bay, or who knows what's going on there. But
Yeah, who knows? But so I guess it's possible that he did film a couple things with them, right? Or already for that film.
mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think I think it makes sense for him to just be going like forward, of like going on a more cosmic scale of things. I don't even know what's really out there for him to interact with, but
Yeah, that's
come
the
on, he's the
thing,
god of
right?
thunder, so
Yeah, that's
he can
true.
find some things to get into. Um,
And
but yeah,
then,
and then oh sorry.
well, just yeah, my last point would be kind of what we alluded to earlier of like the A Force, or not even necessarily that, but just I think I could see Valkyrie or Jane, not necessarily together, but maybe also together, like setting up where they go next. Uh, that makes sense to me as well, because I mean, talking about Thor and how we don't know where he's going, like what about Valkyrie? Like
Right.
if they're gonna keep her around, what's the purpose of that? Like, does she have a trajectory? Where is she going? Whereas I think Jane's one that at the end of this movie you could leave that a bit more ambiguous for now, and you could bring it back later. But I don't know if you want to just leave Valkyrie on like, oh, okay, we got rid of Gore. See you later, guys, and then she just goes back to New Asgard and
Right.
just chills there. Like I think they would want to maybe set her up for something, but I don't know. I don't know if I'm maybe setting my expectations too high that Valkyrie is going to be a very relevant character in the coming years. But I hope so, because I think she's very fun, and as we said, she hasn't had her moment yet, and I don't think that this movie is going to give her that, like that definitive moment that you look back on. So
Mm-hmm.
those would be my thoughts. Would be like those two, Jane, Valkyrie. What are they up to? Loki or a Guardians thing. Those would be my three maybe thoughts as an end credit. Is there one that like to you sounds the most guaranteed or the most right of those, or do you have another fourth or fifth or sixth prediction that you think makes more sense?
No, I really like your predictions. I think they all fit. They could all
They're
like they're
pretty
not.
safe, but
Yeah,
yeah.
they're pretty safe. Like they're not wild picks. Who knows? Like the Grandmaster one.
Mm.
I feel like I'm a little bit less confident, or I'm a lot less confident on that one, just because if he only appears in the end credit of this movie, it's
Yeah.
just like I kind of forgot about this character, and then I'm sure there will be a lot of people that are like, "Who the fuck even was that?" And like, why are they
Mm.
showing them in end credit if he wasn't even in the main movie? I feel like that would be pretty weird. So I would
I feel
definitely
like, do they
pick
want to
yours.
pay Jeff Goldblum whatever his hourly rate is to come do this post
It's probably
credit
pretty
scene?
high.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
But yeah, no, I think the reason too why I really like yours is I I I I think that we're gonna have a clear understanding of where Jane and Valkyrie lie, like at
Mm.
the end of this movie. I think because just what was shown in like that first trailer of Valkyrie just kind of being bored of like dealing with like the political side of ruling New Asgard and just being like a leader there.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they wouldn't show that unless like they actually have like a clear understanding of what they're planning to
Yeah.
do with her in
I
this.
mean,
Like
it's a
she's
small little fishing village. Not like there's anything for her to grow into there either, you know?
no, exactly. But like she's still in charge of all these people, and it's like, what is that? What does that entail? And I think just the fact that they showed it like in that
Yeah.
first trailer, it's like, okay, we're gonna have some good Valkyrie stuff, and she's not gonna be the main part of the movie by any means, but just as you said, like we'll have a clear understanding of the trajectory, and then maybe that leads into a Disney Plus thing or
Mm-hmm.
something along those lines. Like we have her and Jane interacting quite a bit, and I've already seen like just like fan fiction of them like shipping those two
Yeah.
characters, and I think that fits really well. Because tying back to like our other prediction of just like the love dynamic between Chris Hemsworth Thor and Jane Foster's Thor, Mighty Thor. Like it's just we've seen it before, and then it's
Mm-hmm.
just, oh, is it gonna work out? Is it not? And then if it's just this movie, it's just like, oh, we're just lovers again. Like I just think that's kind of lame, honestly. Like
Mm.
that's not really that creative. It's just like, oh, he had this old flame, his old love, and then
Mm-hmm.
what happens? Oh, they just get back together, and it's just like that. Like that's not really entertaining for me. I
Mm-hmm.
want a new dynamic, and then I think the fact of those two partnering up and just being like a team it could just be really fun, and I can, because I like those two characters on their own. I think together their charisma is just going to be fantastic, and they're going to be
Mm-hmm.
just really fun, like one lining between each other. So I think for those two, I think they'll be more tied together. Like maybe if we see Valkyrie, then we'll see Jane, something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would agree
Last,
with that. Oh, sorry.
well, just another thought is sometimes they just straight up use these post credits to like, here's what's the next MCU thing coming out. Now, I guess technically Miss Marvel is gonna go on for another week after Thor,
Mm,
but I was thinking like, is there some possibility that like Thor is just, even if it's not related to the story of Thor at all, just like something for She-Hulk would be the next MCU thing afterwards.
right.
But I mean, I think maybe Miss Marvel would make more sense for that since it's another TV show and it's actually out past Thor. And then the next movie at this rate is Black Panther, right? Or is there something else that's coming out before that?
Um, because Black Panther, it's so funny because I just like had in my mind that was just like guaranteed to be delayed, even though it's like
Mm.
not delayed. I'm like, there's just no way this movie actually comes out, and they've like said that
I
it's
think that's the only other thing slated for this year, movie wise. So that's
yeah
another possibility. Is just like I don't know, some
they
not it could be a trailer. It like they did for Spider Man. Like they could just
right.
do that again, right?
Oh, they very well could do that. Because they have that like werewolf thing. It's like a Halloween special.
Right.
I don't know like anything about that. I just knew that they're doing like a Halloween something
Yeah.
with this new character that a lot of people are looking forward to seeing. Again, someone in the chat will probably correct me and tell me exactly what
Werewolf
that one's
by
called, but
Night, I think is his
I
name.
think you're right. I think it is Black Panther next, and yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. That's the only other thing, but I think that's after Black Panther. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's just tough for me to like see the tie-in to Black Panther. Like if we do get a trailer for that, I feel like you would have to have a character that kind of because it would just feel weird if
Yeah.
like there's no mention of Wakanda, there's no mention of any Black
Yeah.
Panther character, and then we just get a trailer at the end of this. I feel like that would be kind of
I guess
disconnected a
the
bit.
Spider-Man Doctor Strange trailer thing made a lot more sense than this would.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
because like those events directly like led us to this moment.
Mm-hmm.
Again, as you meant, like you bring up Miss Marvel, like maybe there's something in the coming weeks. There'll be like a really big plot moment in that show, but I mean, we're gonna talk a bit about Miss Marvel later on in this
Mm-hmm.
episode, but I feel like that would just be kind of weird if they introduced like a big concept that would tie into a movie in a show like that. If not everybody's watching that show,
Mm-hmm.
you would really have to make it like very clear of like this thing happened here, even if you don't watch the show. I think it's really important that they do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I mean,
Ooh,
and then like,
what about Groot? That Groot show is coming out in August, and Groot's gonna be in this.
oh yeah, yeah, there
I
you
don't.
go.
I
You can
think that will
see,
just be a little jokey, little animated, or not animated, but he's an animated character. You know what I'm getting at? Like that.
I know
That
what you
could be
mean.
a thing
Yeah.
as well.
And but like that could very well work for an end credit scene. Like if we already have him in this movie and you just have like a quick little thing about that, like
Because we
it's
haven't
not
seen
a
a
far
trailer
pull.
for that, right? Even a
No,
teaser.
no, we haven't.
And
No,
that's coming
exactly.
out in within about a month, I guess, after the movie. So that could be a good
Yeah,
timing.
I definitely think if we get like more than one end credit scenes, I think one of them actually would be that. That's a great thing that you brought up. It kind of just popped it into my frontal
Spitballing
cortex
here.
there. Yeah. But no, that would really make sense. And then they have the trailer there, and then the next day the trailer's just out, to the public.
Mhm.
I think that would make sense. And
That's gonna
because
be
yeah,
my number one prediction now.
I
Okay,
love
we've
it. I
gone through
love
like
it. Yeah.
7 or 8 things. I'm gonna say a Groot TV show setup. Number 2, Guardians Volume 3 thing. Number 3 prediction, Jane and or Valkyrie and what they're doing next. Those would be my top 3.
I love it.
There you
Yeah,
go.
I would vote for that too. Because yeah, I think we will get like a comedy one, and then maybe one actually tying it or like leading into something new.
Yeah,
So
I feel like
it,
a
it's like a
Groot
formula for
trailer in
MCU.
place of a comedy one could make sense. Like you
Yeah,
get your one story setup and then one just kind of like teaser trailer thingy.
absolutely. Right on. Yeah, I don't have any other really ideas for big end credit moments. Yeah, so I really like your tier list. I think I would vote for that one too. Is the Groot one just because it's like the next thing coming down the line. It would make sense if they're just cross promoting
And
that.
no marketing so far, so
Yeah, no
you
marketing.
got to market it at some point.
Exactly. All in the game clarified. It's called Werewolf by Night. It's gonna be a
Mhm.
Halloween Disney Plus special, so it's not actually like in theaters or anything like that.
Yes.
So
It's gonna be
there
fun.
we go. Well, that's the end of our list for Thor: Love and Thunder predictions. Any last minute things you have that popped into your brain there, Dylan? Before we move along.
I mean, one thought I wrote this down, but I don't think this is gonna be the case. But I was just thinking like, okay, well, we don't know what Thor's doing next. Maybe Guardians we talked about, but other than that, like, what does he do? Like, is there like a next big bad they start to build up here? Is this a good place to do that? Like, I don't know. Here's your next Thanos equivalent. Not
Right.
not that I think they're gonna do that same 20 movie building into one big two-parter movie thing, but like maybe Thor makes sense to do that. But I don't really foresee that. I think you got enough else going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think just with the Disney Plus model, it just changes how they're gonna set up something like that. I just don't foresee that happening. But it was a thought. Do you think there's anything to
Um,
dig
I
into
I
there?
th- I think it's still a little bit early for that. I think they could be planting like some really like some really young
Mm-hmm.
seeds, some really young seedlings about that. I think it might help that we are just on that cosmic scale, like we are in
Mm-hmm.
space. We are dealing with Mount Olympus. We have a character that butchers gods. Like that's a
Mm-hmm.
pretty big deal. So maybe it's just they talk about something like big bad out there, and maybe that's like what the Guardians are kind of like like they have something on their radar regarding about that. I mean, I guess all the Guardian stuff would kind of be tying to their own movie, not necessarily like a big
Yeah.
Avengers level threat. But yeah, I think if anything, it'd be really minor and like really early stages of that stuff. Because
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like we have a couple movies coming out that again are probably on like probably on that level of like planting the seeds for a new villain, but it's just tough for me because we're just still so new and there's still so many things in Phase 4 that have to come out yet. So
Mm-hmm. I think even like Black Panther makes more sense for something like
yeah,
that, and I mean that's happening this year. But yeah, I think that I would put that very low on my end credit predictions list.
for sure. Right on. All right, that was some great Thor: Love and Thunder predictions. We are gonna go to our next ad break, and then we'll be diving into some War of the Rohirrim. So tune in for that. We'll be right back. And we are back. So yeah, Dylan Muss. We have another nice, fresh Lord of the Rings film going to be coming out. It's going to be animated. The title is The War of the Rohirrim. What's like
Mm-hmm.
your excitement level on this? Like I know you love Lord of the Rings as we all do pretty much on the podcast, and obviously like the Battle of Helm's Deep is just such an iconic moment in Two Towers. Maybe quickly I'll mention or I'll ask you like what's your favorite of the three films? Do you like
Wait,
have like a
why do you
very easy
mention
answer?
why do you mention the Battle of Helm's Deep? Is that related to this
Yes, it
movie in
is.
some way? Okay.
Yes, it is. So I
So
I'll,
I
I'll,
don't
I'll talk
know I
specifically.
don't know
Okay,
much about this. You're the lore guy. I don't know if you want to like
perfect.
set it up a little bit first
Yeah,
as to, like
okay.
what we're expecting.
That's fair enough. I wasn't sure your knowledge
I
on
did
this
read
one.
your
So
article, but I don't feel like I have much of an idea of what is going on here.
that's fair. So I'll pull up the article so I don't get any dates wrong because if I'm understanding correctly, the events of this film is like 180 years before the events of like our
Fellowship, I
hobbits,
guess.
yeah, taking the
Oh
ring
wait,
to
before the
Mordor.
Hobbit or before Fellowship?
Sorry, yeah, Fellowship. That's what I meant to say.
Okay.
Yeah. So 180 years. I hope I'm not wrong on that date, but
I think I
yeah,
saw that
no,
too. So
yeah, 180 years before the Oscar-winning trilogy. They titled that one.
a lot of Oscars it won. So
A lot of yeah, they
the king of
swept
the
it with Return of the King.
Oscars.
So this story is going to be following the king of Rohan at the
Mhm.
time, and his name is Oh no, it's. I think it's
Hammerhand,
Wolf.
Helm
Wolf.
Hammerhand.
Yeah, thank you. Helm Hammerhand. Such a great name. I feel like
Pretty
if
badass.
I ever had a king, I would want his name to be something like that. Like he just sounds like a warrior.
Does he like
Um,
have a hammer imbued into his actual hand, or is it
I
just that he
fucking
like
hope so.
always has this fucking hammer that it's like, let's call him Hammerhand?
Or his
guys.
fists are just like hammers. Like he
He's
just
that
knocks
strong.
people out with these giant.
But then he also got a helm in there too. So it's like, does he always wear his helmet as well? I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah. It's a very or yeah. So let me rephrase that. So this king Helm Hammerhand, he is just like a really iconic king of Rohan, and the story is going to be. I don't know exactly what's going to be going on to leading up to it, but it's going to be like a big battle at Helm's Deep, like kind of like the main iconic one that like gives it significance of this
Mhm.
holdout Helm's Deep.
I
Us,
gotcha. Okay.
people that have just seen Lord of the Rings know it from Two Towers when they go there to defend against the orcs. Saruman's like forces are going to just murk them basically, and then they go to Helm's Deep, and then this is kind of just like laying the groundwork of why this holdout is so iconic, which I'm very very looking forward to. I love like Rohan and the Rohirrim, and I just think like their aesthetic is so beautiful. You know, they brought me one of my favorite cities in Skyrim, the Whiterun. It was taken from that. A lot of inspiration for it, and so yeah, this is set 180 years before that, and I believe the forces that they're fighting is just other humans.
Okay.
I'll pull that up to confirm. So yeah, so apparently Wolf is the main antagonist. WULF, another really great name. And then yeah, so it's kind of like a historic event that we're going to be seeing. It's a movie. It's actually dropping in theaters, which I was kind of surprised about. I thought it was just going to be on streaming services.
Nice.
And it's actually narrated by, I forget the actress's name, but the lady that played Eowyn, the niece of King of Rohan in Lord of the Rings. So we're gonna have a familiar voice, and she, like, I don't think she's voicing a character. It's just she's like narrating the story, and
That's cool.
yeah, this is really cool. And for me personally, I think this is so sweet because it's just fleshing out more of the Lord of the Rings like world. I think Lord of the Rings is probably one of the most like important like pieces of fantasy, because just so much of fantasy has been pulled from like Tolkien's initial just ideas and like inspirations from it. I think just the world is so amazing, and just the more of it, the better. In my eyes, especially something like this that it's animated, like it's just gonna have such a different feel for it. I think the battles are gonna be really epic. We have Brian Cox is gonna be the lead voice for the Helm Hammerhand.
It's a bit of a
easy
tongue
for me to say.
twister.
Yeah, it is. Do you know who Brian Cox is? I think if you see his name or his face, you would
Okay,
you would
I'll look him
see
up.
him.
But when I was reading the article, I didn't recognize any of the
Oh, okay.
creative people working on this.
He has a very
Physicist.
he's a
Different Brian
physicist.
Cox,
What?
I'm guessing. There's a difference.
Oh,
There's
I've
apparently
seen
two
him live
notable
actually.
Brian.
I've seen Brian Cox the physicist live. He had like an
Whoa.
astrophysicist like lecture thing in Vancouver I went and saw. Funny enough, but so
That
when I
is
first saw that name, I'm
kinda
like, what
crazy.
the hell? That's a weird pull. He's gonna be doing
Okay, I know
Hammerhand.
this guy.
Yeah.
What do I
He's
know
got a-
him from?
He was
the
in
question.
Troy. I think he was Agamemnon. He's been just in things here and there.
Huh.
I don't think he's ever been like a big lead in anything, but just iconic voice. So I think he's gonna have just a really nice Rohirrim type
Right.
voice to him. It's gonna be really really nice. But so yeah, I probably missed a few things, leading to it. Like I haven't dissected and like gone down the deep crevices of the internet to get all the information on this. But when I first heard it, I think that's just sweet. It's animated. It's all about like Rohan and just like the significance of Helm's Deep, and obviously Hammerhand is like the main character's name, so I think like this place could possibly be made by him. And yeah, like I've been doing a lot of deep diving in like Lord of the Rings lore, but Rohan is definitely not one that I like know much about other than what was shown in the trailer. So I really hope this just fleshes out more of like the culture of those people, and like they're known as like the Horse Lords. So like just like obviously in Two Towers we see all the mounted Rohirrim and just doing their huge charges, and I just think like the scale of possibilities of what they can do with it being animated is just awesome. Did you ever watch like the Witcher animated movie that came out on Netflix? I think it was I forget
No.
what it was called, but it's all about like Vesemir when he was younger, but that was all done animated.
I have my
and
Witcher
it-
book right behind me here.
Oh, beautiful. I like
I was
it.
gonna bring
Sword
it
of
up on Side
Destiny.
Quest, but it's relevant now. I just finished that the other day. So
Nice.
the second Witcher
Awesome.
book. So I think
Beautiful.
I think my plan right now, this is going off topic, is to read the Witcher books, and assuming I continue to like them, to read through all of them, and then
Absolutely.
go check out the Netflix, like whatever, all the. I guess there's more because I know there's the TV show. I didn't know there was a movie.
Yeah.
And then maybe go to the games after that. Even though you would think I'd start with the games and go elsewhere. I have played a bit of Witcher 3, but
Yeah.
anyway,
So
to get off topic.
the movie is an animated Netflix original, and it I don't think it follows the books by any means. It's just like giving
Okay.
backstory to I can't remember, like, is Vesemir in those books that you read?
It's definitely been mentioned. Yes.
Yeah, so it's like him as a young Witcher, and
Right.
the
That's
reason
like
why I
his,
brought
the training grounds, right?
yeah
Yeah.
exactly. So or it's like it's a Witcher. That's his name, Vesemir.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So
There's so many names in these books. I don't even.
Oh
I don't know
yeah,
what's
it's
going
easy
on.
to kaflunkle them up. That's a made up word for me.
I like that word.
And the reason why I brought that up is because that show was animated and it just had a really dark, gritty like feel to
Mm.
it. And I'm picturing this show going to be something like that. I think it's Warner Bros. And New Line Cinema is the people that are making this. Um,
Well, yeah, it's owned
and
by Amazon and all them
yeah,
right now, right? So
yeah, exactly. And yeah, just initial thoughts. Like I'm super super jazzed for this. I was really really impressed that it's actually getting a theatrical release. I think that's really really cool. And yeah, just to poke your brain, Dylan. Like, what's your
mhm.
thoughts on this? Like, does this get you really excited? Does this give you, I don't know, hope for maybe potentially like more Lord of the Rings stories like this, where it doesn't have to have like a full live action cast and like build all these sets, because it's just such an endeavor to make a film like that. Obviously, we're getting the Rings of Power show coming out in September, and the budget for that is absolutely freaking insane. So like
Mhm.
obviously with this being animated, like it's a lower budget and they can just get pretty creative with it. Like how does that get you? Yeah, how does that get you feeling?
Yeah, well, you asked me like earlier the hype level. I honestly would just set that at like a clean 5 right now. I know I'm a big Lord of
Nice.
the Rings guy, but I got to see a trailer first before I can gauge my interest in terms of seeing the art style. We do have like a I think it's really just concept art. I don't think it's actually a shot from the show or from the movie, I should say. So I don't know what it looks like, and that to me is going to be a big thing in terms of just aesthetically how it feels. And then yeah, I just don't know tons of the creative people behind it. I did look up. So Brian Cox. The reason I recognized him from something recently is I recently watched the first 3 X-Men movies again, and he plays Stryker.
Oh, that's
In
right.
those. So I
Yeah.
was like, I've seen him recently. What was it in? It was X-Men 2, I guess. I don't think he's in the third. He might be in the first. Anyway, he's in X2. So yeah, I don't know. I just don't. I just got to see it before I believe it, I guess is where I'm at. But I do. The reason I even starts at a 5 is because I do love Lord of the Rings. I think if you asked me if this was announced and you asked me this question in September when we're watching the show when I'm playing Lord of the Rings Gollum, I think my hype level would probably be a lot higher because I'm like, oh, all in that headspace,
Right.
assuming I enjoy engaging with both of those things. But yeah, I love Lord of the Rings, so hopefully this is good. It is interesting to me that animated and going to theaters, like that's a very I kind of feel like a bold claim. I don't know. I guess Lord of the Rings is huge and historically in theaters. In terms of the setting of it, I would love to learn more about Rohan. For me, I'm not going to say I'm worried, but just them setting it in a similar place that we've seen before. I hope we don't get too much of the Hobbit effect where they just
Mm.
throw in random shit to like remind you of all the things you love from the Lord of the Rings movies, but then it's just done so poorly because it's just ham-fisted in there. So I hope that's not done. I think Rohan is a civilization of men, right? So they're not going to have the lifespan to be able to bring in all these men that we know from the movies.
Yeah.
I would assume, but there could be obviously other characters that are existing in this timeline that could appear. Question for you on so Eowyn is narrating this. You said,
Yep.
do you think that means that this is kind of like a storybook sort of thing where it's her from that time period, maybe even after the events of the third one,
Mm.
and she's like sharing this tale as like a nighttime story, or just like, do you like? It doesn't sound like from what you said that it will be something where it's like you see her around a campfire sharing the story, and it's cutting back to like here's what happened,
Yeah.
and then it's like back to her sharing it with modern people. So, but otherwise, like it seems like a weird choice for them to bring specifically Eowyn in, unless
Yeah.
they're going to somehow contextualize it within that world. And I'm excited for that, but I'll say a bit worried that they could fuck that up. Just because
Yeah.
I have no reason like the Amazon show looks like I'm intrigued, but I don't know how good it is yet. So
Mm.
it's hard for me to put too much faith in the people who are kind of behind this.
Right. Yeah. I think just the fact that it's like they casted her as like Eowyn,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, okay, maybe she is just like recounting the tale of this and like telling a campfire story, kind of like what you were talking about. Um, because like
Does
she's
that make
clearly
you
not
less or
alive.
more excited than just like arbitrarily it's just her voice?
Um, I would say like kind of just like a 5 out of 10. Like I'm just very neutral. My pH level is 7
Sure.
on
Yeah.
on that
Yeah.
because like I think it's cool that they brought her back because it's just gonna be a recognizable voice. I liked her as the role of Eowyn.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've seen her in anything like since then, and
Yeah.
it's just to have a recognizable voice. I think that is a positive. Um, and like who knows? Like maybe it's not even that. Maybe it just starts and it's just it's her talking, and the fact that she played Eowyn is the reason why they like casted her as Eowyn. It could be that, because it's clearly not going to see like the character of Eowyn, at least I would imagine, you know, like on screen. And yeah, like I think it doesn't really do much to raise or deter my excitement level at all. Because yeah, like obviously what was emphasized in Two Towers is just like how defensible like this location is, and they they just kind of say that and then you just believe them, and I think this movie gonna be able to explain why that happened, and the reason why it was made the way it was, and like the significance of this individual my gosh, Hammerhand, the King of Rohan. Like I think just all of these things, it is the exciting part of it for me, because I don't think this show will do anything to like bring down like Two Towers or like what happened around Helm's Deep. At least that's my belief. I don't think that'll happen. I think that would be a huge
Do you think they do any
that
shots that are like, you know, something like when Aragorn like chucks Gimli around the side, or having the kind of suicide bomber dude who jumps in? Do you think, or like someone sliding down a staircase on a shield? Like, do you think there's anything that are like little Easter eggs of throwing back to that? I imagine the place looks a lot different in that time, but maybe it doesn't. Do you think they do any playful stuff like that?
I could see it, especially like that weak point. That's just like they have that one weak point, then that's how like the orcs got through. And I think maybe it would be a positive if they make a point of like explaining the reasoning why they have to have that there, because then it's like, oh, okay, now it's not just like, oh, they have this one weak spot in the wall that's just convenient for the orcs. Like there's actually a reason that was explained in this movie. I think that's a total like positive thing that could come out of this show, is that it boosts some things, you know, from just the Helm's Deep moments in Two Towers. So I think there's potential there. In terms of like the moments from Two Towers, I don't think so. I think if I had to put my chips somewhere, I would say that's not gonna happen. Just 'cause it would be like, oh, remember when Legolas did this in like 100 years in the future? Well, another person's doing this, and it's also a very elf trait. And if this is just like men versus men, I don't think we'll get any stuff like that. Men on man action. And
have you ever seen the Lord of the Rings animated movie?
Oh, like the one
I know
from
we were
like
talking
the 70s,
about doing that
right?
as like part of our retro, and I hope we do make time for that, because I've never seen it, and I don't not that I think this will have any sort of similarity in style to that, but I don't know, I'm just wondering if you have seen that.
I have seen it. I remember like years upon years ago on what, like channel 22 or something, or like channel I forget what channel it was, but at like 9 o'clock it would be like a really kid show, and then at 9 o'clock it would change to like a more like teen or like adult.
After 9.
Yeah, it's essentially that. It would be an after 9 like take where they would be showing like just darker shows, or maybe like more mature things, and I probably wasn't supposed to be watching them, but I definitely was. And then they had like a Lord of the Rings movie, and I remember I like set a reminder, you know, back when you would be on like cable or something, you'd set a reminder for when this is starting, because I'm like, oh my god, they have like Fellowship of the Ring, Lord of the Rings, like I'm gonna watch this. And then I turn on, it was just like this anime thing. I'm like, what the fuck is this? I've never even heard of this movie before. And it's pretty different. Like they have like Frodo goes by a different like fake name, as opposed to like Underhill is his fake name in Fellowship. Like in this cartoon version, it's a little bit different, and it just follows the events of the Fellowship. There's no like fellowship. There's no follow up movies to it. And yeah, it's definitely like it follows the main events, but there's definitely some different things that go on with it. So I think that'd be really fun actually on the podcast to watch and just hear everybody's thoughts on it. Yeah. So, and then in regards to what was I going to say? Oh yeah, going back to how you're saying, like I agree with you. I think Helm's Deep is going to be looking different, because obviously if it was made like 180 years before, like our crew goes there with Theoden King, like I think it would just make sense if everything's looking newer, like maybe even just like there's more trees around it, and like it's just a lot more defensible, because it would make sense if just after like hundreds of years of just defensing, like the area probably looks pretty messed up of just a lot of soldiers marching through it. And yeah, and I hope they introduce like maybe new defensible tactics that this King Helm Hammerhand like just brought into the defense of Helm's Deep, and it's not just the fact that it's like against a mountain that's defensible, and there's like a wall. Like I want there to be a lot of different things, and really be able to like peer into the tactical genius of this character that I
Right.
mean I don't know anything about him, but I'm assuming he's going to be something like that if this entire location is named after him. I mean, I guess he's a king, he could probably name anything after himself.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like yeah, I think that stuff is really, really exciting. Again, just a little bit more backstory, and then maybe just fleshing out more things too. And this is kind of something that I brought up in regards to like the Obi-Wan show, where we have something that's a prequel to an event, and if there's stuff that like that lifts certain concepts that they talk about to the point that when I get to episode 4, I like think back on those like prequel moments. I'm like, oh, that like lifts this up. I think that would be a huge positive. You know, like if I get to Two Towers and then I'm like, oh man, like in the show they talked about how the reason why they put the I don't know like the bridge in this one location,
Yeah.
and then in the show or in the animated movie rather, you actually have like dialogue explanation to that, because I think that's a huge positive that you can get from these prequel things. Not everybody loves prequel things. I know Travis has voiced his opinions on that many times on the podcast, and I'm kind of like I don't know indifferent on them if they're done well. I think as I just mentioned, like it has the potential to boost things that have already come out.
Yeah.
So I'm super optimistic on it as well, just because I absolutely love Lord of the Rings, and I'm hoping I can just will it into existence that it's going to be good. But I don't know. I guess you don't want to get your excitement level too high. And like you, I'm very, very excited to get that first, just like official, like, because yeah, we've seen concept art, but like the official image of like maybe a character's look or like the first trailer. Like I think that's just going to be just the style. I think that's going to be a really, really just exciting moment, and to see how mature the show is. I don't think it'll be R-rated or anything like that, but just if it's dark and gritty and like you feel like it's actually like a war, you know, as opposed to just like a kid show of, oh no, yeah, you see men get like bopped in the head. There's no blood or anything like that. Like I do want a darker, grittier thing, because war is violent, man. War's deadly.
Yeah, I wonder how that would affect it, because something like an Amazon show, if you're putting on your streaming service, might be easier to do something like that. But if you're putting an animated film in theaters, you'd think they, like, I guess I would set my expectations that they're going to tone it down, because that seems like something that they're trying to get kids into. And also, if it's just a one-off, that's also that's kind of maybe easier to digest than here. Check out this trilogy. So, I mean, it could be a long movie, but I also feel like animated movies usually aren't super long. I can't think of a 3-hour animated movie. So yeah, I guess I think it'd be a simpler story, not as long, and I would not expect super dark, but we'll see about that. I got to say, I like the acronym for this, LOTR, WOTR. It's kind of fun.
I love
all these Lord of the Rings anything now is just going to be such a mouthful. But
yeah,
that's
absolutely.
That's
it's like Knights of the Old Republic, right? KOTOR. You just learn like the acronyms.
I think one last point for me would be just that we've seen over the years, I guess, just maybe a bit of an inconsistency, where we talk about how the CGI of Lord of the Rings, the original trilogy, does stand up pretty well for the most part. There are certain aspects that you can definitely pick out, look with a 2022 lens, that don't stand up as well. But when we talked about like The Hobbit too, how, oh man, like there's just a lot, like they really just fell down on CGI, where even that original or trilogy had the orcs and stuff were done with makeup and prosthetics and all these things like this, where they just like defaulted to CGI for a lot of those kind of more fantasy creatures in The Hobbit. And it seems like obviously the Amazon show has an insanely high budget, so it seems like they'll be able to do a pretty good job there, but we don't know exactly yet how much CGI will be used for creatures like that. But I think doing an animated show like this, you'll just have a lot more consistency across the board, and you're not going to have that effect. And I think that's a plus that has not really that Lord of the Rings has struggled with in recent times. So I'm glad that we'll just have the consistent ability, and they can do some crazy stuff with it, because it's animated. They can get away with some things like that easier. So that's a positive in my book as well.
Absolutely, yeah. The reason why I brought up like that Witcher Netflix animated movie is like that. I think that actually is like R-rated, or whatever the equivalent is for like a TV, something like that. Because there's like some pretty gory moments, even like have you seen Castlevania?
Theaters, right?
No, that didn't go to theaters. Exactly, that's what I was going to lead to. Is that like that's a big difference if you're trying to market this to people that want to go see in theaters. I don't think you're going to be getting a lot of blood, and I guess that's a positive in like the Peter Jackson like trilogy is most of the time like you're just seeing orcs like just
Yeah.
getting decapitated and like their black blood just go everywhere. Like it's a little bit different than like human gore, whereas this is just like human on human. And um I think just if it's a battle, there's gonna be some blood and gore, but
Mm-hmm.
they'll do some PG-13 magic to make it
Yeah.
not so crazy. And I mean that's a positive with Lord of the Rings is that you don't need that gore to make it entertaining or anything like that. Like it can
Mm-hmm.
really be a lot on maybe just seeing the beautiful horsemen like in battle, you know, and just the more like tactical side of it as opposed to just
It's about the battle as a whole and not
yeah,
the one-on-one fights or I
exactly.
don't know, the darkness of it, the grittiness, the gore, all that stuff.
No, exactly, yeah. And then so then just to further go into some of the plot stuff. So the animated feature film is directed by Kenji Kamiyama. I apologize if I'm saying that incorrectly. Details a sudden attack by Wolf, a ruthless Dunlending lord who seeks vengeance for his father's death. So you may remember in I think it's in Two Towers or Return of the King, but the Dunlendings are like just a group of like wild men, and they kind of just
Mm.
side with Saruman. Like they're just bad dudes. um, so like
And
you might
the bats from Dunlin. I don't. Are they bats or I
the
forget what those
creatures from
things are.
Dunlin, I think
Yeah.
is just what they call them, but they're I think they're essentially bats. But do you remember that one scene when it's like Sauron's like throne room? There's like that one wildman, and he's like, "My life for Sauron." And he like cuts his hand.
Mm.
Like that's a Dunlin
Right.
example of a character. So yeah, just gross, gritty, gross, just teeth. Yeah,
Dunlin.
they're wild men.
It sounds like the Rutland of the Lord of the Rings world.
Yeah,
The
maybe turned
clone
up a little bit. They have some multipliers on their wildness than just regular Rutland people. But no,
Mm-hmm.
I think again it's interesting because it's just going to be fleshing out like the Dunlendians, and like we barely learn anything about them in the actual movies, right?
Right.
And then
Very
this will
surface
maybe
level.
just explain more of their motivations on why they are wild men and why they don't just side with like you would think the good forces, the
Mm.
forces of men and stuff, and really like what the fallout is, because they said like Wolf's attack is in response to like his father's death. So I'm curious if Helm Hammerhand is like a direct result of that. Maybe it's like a mistake, like it didn't actually go the way that the Dunlendings thought it was, and then it just leads to this war. I think that's a good enough plot for a show like this. Like I don't need anything like, oh yeah, this person was sent from Sauron or anything. Like I think it's smart that they're keeping it away from the events of like the battle for the ring, because it has less just impact on the trilogy, and I think that's smart. I think it's really smart to do that because it's not like I'll be watching the trilogy and be like, oh, why do they never mention this, you know, like this event that
Mm.
happened in this movie? Like, I think it is smart that they do that. And I think that's something when we get to like the Rings of Power show that I'm going to be curious how much they actually have like stuff tying to the events of the trilogy.
Yeah.
Because, you know, the trilogy in my eyes is a masterpiece and in many other people's minds. So you don't want to tack on certain things that could possibly, I don't know, have weight on that. I don't know if that makes any sense or if you can understand what I'm trying to come from on that.
Yeah, I
But
think so.
yeah, anything
Mm-hmm.
else on this the Lord of the Rings War of the Rohirrim? It's going to be dropping. I have the date
Water,
right.
water.
Oh gosh, I had the date. Apologies. April 12th, 2024. So a little bit ways away
Mm.
on that
Wow.
one.
Okay.
Yeah, so don't be holding your breath on it, but
No.
once we get, you know, trailers and stuff, we'll be talking about it lots on the podcast. So if you're interested, you know, follow our feeds.
Yeah, I'm excited to see more, but I not too many more thoughts for now. Yeah.
Right on. All right, let's take another ad break here, and then we'll be moving on to our next topic. So we will be right back. And we are back, and our next topic is in regards to Miss Marvel. So,
Mm-hmm.
Dylan Muss, you and I have both been watching Miss Marvel.
Little MCU sandwich on the discussion today. Huh?
Yeah,
Lord of the
absolutely.
Rings right in the middle there.
Oh yeah, I think Lord of the Rings is a good like burger. You know, it's a good middle of the.
Nice
It's like the
meaty
main product
meat
of the
back on the
sandwich.
menu.
Oh, I'm glad you pulled that one out. So yeah, no, we're going to Miss Marvel here.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing our reviews for that. Those are lots of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking for myself, like I personally really love the show, and I think just in anticipation of the show, a question that I don't know, we kind of were posing on the podcast is just like what the numbers would do
Yeah.
in regards to the other Disney Plus shows. You know, like I think Loki is still the front runner in that regard. For I think just in like all the numbers, like in like the first viewing, and then just in overall.
Sure. Okay.
So yeah, and then we were curious like where it would line with Moon Knight. We have Falcon Winter Soldier, Hawkeye. Like we have a good handful of shows
Mm-hmm.
out now, and so this is the latest one, Miss Marvel, and initially it actually has the lowest Disney Plus premiere out of all those shows. And Dylan Musk, I wanted to ask you, like, does that shock you in any way? Like, are you like, oh my gosh, like that's absolutely ridiculous to me? More people need to see this, or do
Mm.
you think it fits with just how they marketed the show?
Well, I definitely think more people need to see it because I'm really enjoying it so far. Uh,
I
I
agree.
don't think it surprises me when I look at the list of other shows that exist. I think maybe what surprises me is perhaps how much lower it is than anything else. Just at least the numbers I'm seeing from the article you sent were
Right.
that it's about like I mean, what if is kind of a weird one because I guess we don't have full numbers on that one. But I also do consider that a bit of a different thing as it's the animated thing. But it looks like the numbers are like about half of what Hawkeye was. Hawkeye being the second to lowest. So that's a huge drop off in terms of just raw numbers.
Yeah, I agree. And like, do you think that's do you think that has anything to do, again, like with how they marketed it? Like, I remember leading into the show, I was thinking that the show was going to be a lot kiddier than it
Mm.
actually turned out to be. Like, personally, I think the comedy hits everybody. Like, I don't think it's too kiddie. I think there's a lot of like more mature concepts that they introduce, especially with, like just talking about like her heritage and her culture, and like just like I think that stuff it is clearly separate from like this isn't just like a Lizzie McGuire show of just like stupid comedy. Like this is
Mm-hmm.
actually like a meaningful show, but it has like that high school humor that for me
Yeah.
personally, like I think the humor is right up my alley. I think it's great. But yeah, like do you think that might have been a detriment of it? Of like, okay, this character hasn't really been talked about in any big MCU movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's a brand new character, and again, one that's just she's a kid that's just a huge fan of Avengers and Carol Danvers and Captain Marvel, and I think that was the initial like marketing point of it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, do you think that had anything to do with it, or was there another reason why it was so low?
Well, in terms of the marketing part of it, I think there's kind of two sides to that coin. One being that kids aspect of it. Now, this is something that it's hard for me to get numbers on, but when I just think about like how are kids absorbing TV these days, and like where are the numbers at in terms of just like are a lot of parents still subscribe to like do they have cable set up and kids are just like watching it how we did, where it would just be like I'm flipping between Nickelodeon and the Family Channel, all this kind of thing,
Right.
or like how big is the market for Disney Plus shows? Like I'm thinking, okay, if I think about like someone like Travis's Snell family as like a perfect example, if you have multiple people who are watching the show, but since they're going to be watching it as a family because of it's possibly how it's marketed, well, now that what would be 4 views, if you look at it, 4 or 5 views, I don't know how many people are necessarily watching at his house, but like now that's just going to count as one person for these streaming numbers. And so that
Right.
could be a thing. Whereas like if a family's watching it together, that's only going to get you one view as opposed to these other shows that okay, every MCU fan who is like an adult and subscribed to the service on their own, they're all going to watch it on their own. That's going to boost your numbers a lot. So I think that could be one thing too. And also like if you're marketing it towards kids, kids are not going to have a credit card and be subscribing to Disney Plus and watching these shows on their own. So I think that could make it difficult as well. But you know, it also we've talked about this on the reviews that it is a very fun show for us as mid late 20s. So yeah, like maybe they shouldn't have tried to. Maybe they shouldn't have undersold that, and maybe they didn't. Maybe it was just our perception and whatnot.
Yeah.
I think the other part of it is just the difficulty of marketing this as okay. Even I had some struggle with this when we did our like 10 years out MCU thing. Like, where's Miss Marvel going to be? Well, it's going to be the next thing is the Marvels with her and Captain Marvel and some other characters. And like that's a big deal. Captain Marvel was a huge movie, but like how do you market that of like okay, did you like Captain Marvel and do you want to see what she's in next? Well, it's not Captain Marvel 2, it's this thing called the Marvels, and to do that you should watch Miss Marvel first. It's hard to market that. And so I can
I agree.
understand how they would maybe have some struggles of trying to get that idea across of like you got to watch this to get ready for Captain Marvel 2, quote unquote.
Yeah, it's not like a clear like a clear what's the word? I'm like a clear target of where we're going for
Mm-hmm.
like just having like just it's just called the Marvels. I like a lot too that you brought up of comparing like if families that have younger, children, just kids in general in their household, like if they're still
Mm-hmm.
subscribed to cable and stuff, because if you are after school and you're just trying to watch something, like if you just have 2 episodes of Miss Marvel out, you're not just gonna keep rewatching that. Like you're gonna tune
Mm-hmm.
into whatever they claim to like Sweet Life of Zach and Cody
Yeah,
is,
I don't
like
even know what
a
the
show like that.
I don't even know what the culture is for kids
Yeah.
elementary school age, for example. Like, how do they absorb? Like, are they just watching things on Netflix now?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they wouldn't have their own credit cards or their own accounts, but like through their parents and parental controls. Well, like, I just have no idea how kids and like, though my nephew, who's the only like really kid in my life closely, is too young to like care about
Yeah.
that kind of stuff yet. So maybe I'll have some more insight in the future. But I just don't know how kids are absorbing TV shows, and maybe Disney Plus for a kid-focused show is maybe not fitting, even though they do have other like I don't know High School Musical shows and other random stuff that I'm not
Mm-hmm.
even paying attention to that
Right.
exist.
I mean, if I had to make a guess, I would assume that like kind of the example that I laid out, which is just an example that I had from my like myself in school, is like I'd get home,
Mm-hmm.
have a little bowl of cereal, and then I'd turn on TV and I would watch. Again, my example was like Sweet Life of Zach Cody, or like
Sure.
just a show like that that's just on all the time, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just you don't have to tune in to like each episode. Like if you
Yeah.
miss an episode, it's not the end of the world. I really feel like there is, or like the kids are still doing that stuff. I know like YouTube is really relevant, like or more relevant than it was like when we were younger, where like they actually
Right.
have like full on shows where kids are just like watching stuff like that, maybe
Watching
Minecraft
Minecraft
videos.
videos.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. um, it's funny how we just both pull out Minecraft videos because that just seems what they do. So, and I think tying like if we're just talking about Miss Marvel right now, like I think that's actually a good thing that they didn't just market it for that audience, because that like clearly we probably would have liked it less, and then if it's already has the lowest numbers like on all the shows of our first premiere, like it makes sense that okay, a lot of kids aren't just like, oh mom, like I gotta get Disney Plus so I can tune into Miss Marvel. Like I think if that's gonna happen, it's gonna be when the show's over, because I
Mm-hmm.
just feel like kids are just they're just bingers, they probably just want to watch whatever the YTV show is on at this set time. I That's my prediction. I don't really
Yeah.
have like kids in my life like you. I have niece and nephew, but they're very young. They're
Mm-hmm.
like they're watching Paw Patrol. So if they're
Right.
on, I think Disney Plus has Paw Patrol, so then that could be a good example. They're just watching these shows that are just they have
Mm-hmm.
so many episodes to just put on and have in the background and watch. So I yeah, it's I think I was surprised to see just like where the numbers were. I'm curious of just where they lie like once the whole show's out, like if this is a type of show that just kind of gains traction from more people praising it, because I because whenever I talk to people, just coworkers and stuff about the show, I'm like, man, like you have to watch this show, like it's so good, and they're kind of like, oh really? Like I didn't really have any interest in that,
Mm-hmm.
like they're kind of in those camps, and maybe it is like what you said, like it's just like we just hear the word Marvel like so much. So you have Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel, the Marvels is coming out, and it's just like
Yeah.
I don't like it's hard to follow if you're not, in the if you're not in the jungle of what's going
Yeah.
on in the
And I
MCU.
think some other reasons. One, I don't think the Star Wars overlap helps. Obi-Wan is a big deal.
No.
That name, releasing that on the same night as Obi-Wan is, I don't know, like how many people are staying up till midnight, but even across the world, like other time zones and stuff like that. Like how many people are going to be keeping up with Miss Marvel? Like I feel like there could be a lot of people potentially that are going to watch the rest of Obi-Wan, and then when that's done, they move on to Miss Marvel. So maybe then we
Right.
see the numbers like bump up quite a bit, but just right now they wouldn't be checking that out. I think Ms. Marvel is also a pretty new, like obviously she's a new MCU character. She's also just a newer Marvel character, so she doesn't have
Yeah.
that history where it's not like, oh man, that Miss Marvel live action movie from the '90s wasn't great, but I liked it. I'm curious what they're doing now with that character. Like this is her first appearance in live action, obviously, and even just in media, in like other forms of media in general. Like she's been in video games more lately, but I just think that she's still new. That a lot of people aren't going to have that familiarity with the character and know her history and want to see what she's doing next. We could also look at the video game. Like I think if the Marvel's Avengers game was a lot bigger and more relevant than it was, then I also honestly think you'd see like at least a few, maybe thousand more people checking out this show. But that game just did not sell that well. Obviously, like really focused on her story, but
Right.
a lot of people are gonna play that game and then come check out this TV show. Uh, And then lastly, to me, it would just be like the names behind it. Like she is a new actress. We've not.
Yeah.
She's been in like a couple things, or I think this was her first like big thing, right? So,
Probably, yeah.
and even behind the camera, a lot of new names there that we're not familiar with, and we haven't seen any other MCU cameos. So I just think there's a lot of things that led to it. Once again, I'm just maybe a bit disheartened by how low the numbers are. I mean, there's still like a lot of people, but just compared to the other MCU shows, it's quite low. So
Yeah, it's
yeah, a
like a
bit of a
stark
bummer.
contrast.
Yeah, it's like the perfect storm, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. I I think I agree with you too that I think if they actually showed like Brie Larson or something like in the marketing, I mean
Mm-hmm.
like you have like images of her, but like still like you actually see like tune into the show and you will see this character. I think that probably would have helped the numbers too. But yeah, no, I Google it and like her first appearance in the comics was actually just 2013. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
very very new character and um yeah, I agree with you. I think there's just so many different things that are contributing to having the lower numbers. Obviously, being like the same night of Obi-Wan obviously doesn't help because those numbers are huge. It's like 2.17 million was
Mm-hmm.
the premiere I think for Obi-Wan, and then yeah, like half of 1.5 essentially is
Yeah.
Kamala Khan's show. So, um, yeah, I'm again I'm curious if like her popularity for her character just like I think it's just going to keep going up, especially like with the quality of the show and
Mm-hmm.
people that have seen the show. At least in my social circles, have all kind of been in that same camp that they're like pleasantly surprised. I mean, S Bubs has said like this is or this is peak MCU content right now. Like he's absolutely loving it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Hopefully,
I
people
think
want to binge it, and that's why the
yeah
numbers are a
yeah
bit lower. Yeah.
yeah exactly. I think that's because there has been some people that I work with too that was just like they're so like caught up in their own shows. They're watching Obi-Wan and it's just like, yeah, I'll check out Miss Marvel when it's all said and done so I can just binge it. And
If it weren't for the podcast, I'd probably be in that same boat. I'd probably
yeah,
want to wait until it's all out.
no, me too actually, because this is a show that like Shay hasn't seen like all the MCU shows by any
Mm-hmm.
means, but this is one I'm like, you have to watch this. Like, this is right up your
Mm-hmm.
alley. Like, she loves those Netflix original TV shows, and I just feel like there's a lot of similarities to at least
Sure.
the character of Kamala in it. So, if I could, like, I would have just waited and binged it with her, but
Yeah.
she's busy. I'm busy doing podcast stuff, so it's unfortunately we kind of have to watch it on our own. But
Mm-hmm.
it's such a great show. I don't mind rewatching it. Fortunately,
Yeah. I don't know how big Disney Plus is in Pakistan and surrounding countries, but
right.
you think like, okay, that's a big win to have like. I mean, she's from Pakistan originally, or born there, I suppose, right? So that'd be a
Mhm.
pretty big deal. But I don't know if those numbers would get buffed much by, I don't know, people from that country, I suppose, from
Yeah.
having a show like this.
No, absolutely. All right. Any final thoughts on Miss Marvel, or did you kind of hit all the check boxes on your
Uh,
list?
are you surprised that it was less than 1 million?
Yes, I very much was, especially like, yeah, because we have the like for Hawkeye being 1.5. Like, I felt like it was gonna be at least something close to that. Not
Right. I don't know if we mentioned
not
it. I guess it was
half of that.
700,000.
No,
Like that,
I
right?
didn't mention. Yes, that was my apologies there, but yes, 775,000.
Right.
It says like U.S. household. I don't know, like
Okay. So I guess they're only yeah. These numbers are only
domestic in the
Yeah.
states.
Sure.
I don't even
So
necessarily
that
know
just throws
exactly
my
how
other
that
point out
works.
the window, but that's okay.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I didn't say the number, so thanks for getting me to say it now. And but yeah, I completely agree with you. Like this, it was really bizarre. Like I thought, if anything, like really close to 1 million, but the fact that it's not quite there, that was like you said, like that. I think that's the most shocking thing about like this article and just like the news about it is just first of all, it's the lowest one on the list. Okay, but like it's like half of like what the second lowest one was. Like
Yeah.
that's
Huge
pretty
drop
wild
off.
to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. If you have nothing else to say, I think we'll go to another ad break, and then we'll be jumping into some Wonder Man news.
Wonder Man.
So make sure to tune into that, and we'll be right back. All right, and we are back. So, Dilemas, first of all, have you ever heard of this character before in your life, Wonder Man?
I mean, I probably in passing,
Yeah.
in like maybe even in reference to Wonder Woman, which is a different side of the comic war. But
Yeah.
no, I have not seen this guy in my travels.
Me neither. Yeah. So this is going to be an interesting segment, where it's two people that have barely any knowledge on them,
I
but
read through the
we'll,
wiki a little bit, so you know.
we'll try our best,
Yeah.
people. That's what we do. So yeah, no, this is I forget who is running them. I had the article, but I closed it, unfortunately.
I think it was filmmakers from Shang-Chi and The Ten Rings, as well as
Yes.
I guess writer producer of Brooklyn Nine-Nine and the Community, or just Community, not the
Just Community. Yeah. So yeah, so there you go. Thanks for pulling that up. So the filmmaker Destin Cretton, and then teaming up with Andrew Guest. He's the writer producer of comedies Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Community, like Dylan just said. And I think initially, like when I just saw like the two mix-ups there, I'm like, okay. So
You're a
I'm
big
just
Brooklyn Nine-Nine guy, right?
Oh, I love Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Mhm.
Yeah, last season a little bit iffy, but again, it's
Okay.
ending the show, and it was in the middle of COVID, so like they have like there's
That's
many
tricky.
moments of them like wearing masks, and they like talk about like the COVID
Oh yeah.
like pandemic, some things, and I think I
Interesting,
was just
yeah.
in that camp. I'm like, I'm so done with COVID that like when it's in media, I'm just like I just want to like escape from it, you know,
Yeah.
like take me to these things. But overall, I think the show is so fantastic. There's a lot of great characters, but yeah, like when I saw like the mix up of these two, it's like okay, I think I have an idea of what the show is gonna be like, of just like comedy wise, and I think that's cool because I really like Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I really haven't dabbled in Community like at all, other than like some gifs here and there, like the one of like Donald Glover going to the room, just like everything's on
Yeah.
fire. Like there's some
I
iconic
think
moments.
Community is pretty good. I will say after I finished it, I felt like it was a bit overrated, and that show did have a lot of issues with certain cast members, we'll say. And then I mean Donald Glover, who got pretty big and then left the show like in the
Right.
last couple seasons, whatever it was. So it's a decent show, but I don't think it was all that it was hyped up to be for me hearing about it for years and years before finally watching it.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
like I think just my initial thoughts is like, okay, I don't know anything about Wonder Man. I assumed he was some like knockoff of Wonder Woman, but not, because it's not DC. This is actually Marvel,
No.
so I was kind of
Mhm.
surprising there. And
I think he was created after Wonder Woman though, so I don't know if
yeah,
I don't know what the deal is there. It seems like you can't come up with a better name than Wonder Man. I don't know.
I know. I had that thought when I was getting introduced, like Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel, the Marvel,
Sure.
like or Miss Marvel, who was the original Captain Marvel, and
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
it's just like, oh my gosh, what are we doing here, people?
Bit
And there's
cheesy.
even like Captain Marvel is also a DC character. I think that's also who like Shazam
Oh,
is.
God.
I know
Jesus.
it's
I
bad.
don't need that. No.
Um,
Too confusing.
but I mean, like MCU, I'm expecting to just get introduced new characters. I think the biggest thing for me is like the team up. Is I personally loved Shang-Chi. Have you seen it?
hmm
Yeah,
Yeah, the
you
only
have.
thing I have
Okay.
not seen now is Eternals. I am otherwise
Okay.
all caught up
You're all
on
caught
stuff.
up.
Yep.
Beautiful. So yeah, I just quickly like, did you like Shang-Chi
I
and
did.
like what they did with
Yeah,
it? Yeah.
I quite enjoyed it. I don't know where I'd put it. I got to do my MCU ranking again because
Yeah.
it's been a minute. But I'd say it's probably somewhere like sitting in the middle. I like it quite a bit. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was such a great introduction to like a new character. And I think just having obviously like the filmmaker that did that, bringing in a new character. It's gonna be a Disney Plus series, but still he's bringing in a new character. I totally trust him that he's gonna do it really good. And
Yeah, I also like when I saw the term filmmaker, I was like, what does that mean? Like, is
I
this
know,
guy
I
the
thought that too.
director or writer, or is it just like an executive producer? Like,
he's
I
the
had-
boom
it's-
guy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The sound guy. So I don't know what to take from that. I guess we could look into that, but I don't know. I don't
I'll
know
look
if
it up.
I don't know how much we should lean on that. I mean, obviously, from the MCU perspective, it sounds like he's being put in a bigger. If he is being put in a bigger role, then there's obviously a reason for that. Where Kevin Feige was like, "I really liked your work. I liked your ideas. You were, useful in the coming up with ideas and all that stuff." So it makes sense. They would bring him in for a reason. So
Yeah.
that's good.
He was the director of
Okay.
of Shang-Chi, so there you go. He
Shows
is
that
the
article
legit
who should have
filmmaker.
just put
Yeah.
director.
I know, yeah. They want us to Google and do our
Yeah,
own
that's
research.
fair.
But yeah, so again, like my initial thoughts is okay. I trust the director to do well. All in the game saying filmmaker is a synonym for director.
Is it? I did
Yeah,
not know that.
Never heard that before, but
Huh.
thanks for the knowledge on the game.
Filmmaker.
So yeah, so I trust that guy, and then I think like the comedy, like or like Andrew Guest like tackling the comedy side. I think that's
Mm.
going to be really good because like obviously there's a lot of different writers like on those shows like Community and Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but like it's also like really smart humor. It's one of like my favorite
Ooh.
things about, you and I both love Futurama. Like I just think like the
Mm-hmm.
writing on that is like so smart. Like so like it's funny. Some aspects are really dumb funny, but it's like really smart humor, and I really hope we get more of that in this show of introducing a new character. Um, because yeah, I don't know really anything about this guy. Like you, I was quickly going on like the Marvel wiki of just trying to see like what his powers
Mm-hmm.
are and stuff, and he just fits the like the classic
He's
superhero
got
role.
yeah, he's got all
Super
of the
strength.
powers. He cannot be killed. He has energy, which of course is always just like this generic term that can mean anything. So, yeah, in terms of that part of it, I think they'll probably pick something and they'll like focus on that rather than him having everything, because there's not a lot of those in the MCU.
No.
People that just have it all. It seems like they kind of focus them down. I guess Captain Marvel would maybe be one of them. But yeah, when I was reading through the wiki, it sounds like part of the backstory is a thing where his father or him, whatever it was wronged by Stark Industries in some way. And
Oh
so I
gosh.
don't want to
It
go
all
down that
comes
road
back
because I
to
feel like
stuff.
we've seen that a lot now, and I also
Yes.
feel like that's less relevant now that Tony's not around. And then I also saw he's like powered by Pym particles, but I also feel like it's a very generic thing that who isn't these days. So but I wonder if that's something that they dig into where it's somehow related to Ant-Man and those movies.
Yeah.
If they do tie that, but I think both those 2 points I just made are generic enough that you could go other routes, and I don't know, maybe if every iteration of the character that's always how he's set up, maybe they don't want to deviate from that. But I think that
Hmm.
also gives them room that they could come up with something fresh and new, or I mean, related to, started off from some other MCU project. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think another like interesting thing for me reading that article was apparently this character has like, or let me actually quote it. The character also developed strong ties to classic characters like Vision and Wanda.
Hmm.
Stories tied
Okay.
him to the android via ionic energy and brainwaves that implied the two were akin to brothers. Wonder Man even developed feelings for Wanda after Vision had been dismantled. That's kind of funny.
Hmm.
A little love triangle possibly. I don't think we'll get that in the show. I think they
Yeah.
kind of they have Wanda and Vision. Like those are the ship. You know, we're not getting any wedge between those two. But I think
How
that's really
often at
interesting. I
all
mean,
do you think people refer to him as Wonder Man? Like, do you think they use that? It just that kind of
um,
cheesy name doesn't really
it's
seem
so
to happen in the
cheesy.
MCU, right?
Yeah. It is very cheesy. I think they might just call him by his like first name, Simon Williams, and
I
then
guess if it is comedy, which we don't know, but I mean, if some of the talent is known for
yeah.
comedy, then I think that maybe fits in a way where he like jokingly is like, "I'm Wonder Man," and does the arms on his hips kind of thing.
I hope they make a point of like kind of making fun of like the cheesiness of the name,
Sure.
and it's just like they like I'm Wonder Man, and then people are just like, really, can you come up with a better name? Like I think that'd be really funny
I can
because
already
it's
picture like Doctor Strange's quips of like, "Oh, you're Wonder Man." Oh yeah, like
yeah, oh
making
yeah,
fun of him. Yeah.
100%. Holding his little fox mug.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's funny because when you have these characters that were just introduced like so many years ago, and then just like through time, it's just like those old ancient names for the
Mm-hmm.
characters. It's just kind of cheesy, and at the time, like they're groundbreaking and unique. You know, like if I was creating a superhero, Wonder Man, that's just such like a
Mm.
I feel like a 6-year-old come with that, but
Yeah.
not to discredit, the people that made the character or anything. But yeah, for like this one little section I was talking about of how he has ties to Vision and Wanda, I think that's really interesting to me because one, we have Snow Vision somewhere, like
Oh God.
somewhere,
Yeah.
going somewhere, and I think if you have a character that has ties to him, and I mean, obviously they have to lay the groundwork on why the ties are. They
Mm-hmm.
can't just introduce him and be like, "Oh, it's my brother," and then
Yeah.
if we just like run along with it, I think that'd be terrible. So
Yeah.
I don't think they have that at all. But I think just the possibilities of having someone to interact with these characters, and you know, spoiler alert for Doctor Strange, like Wanda's just like result to happen in that movie. I think it's for me personally, I think it's still kind of up in the air. That like we definitely could see her again in the future, and I think the story elements on how they tie this guy to those two characters is very intriguing for me. And
Mm-hmm.
I think also like Vision and Wanda, obviously they've interacted with like the whole Avengers and everything like that, but they and aside from like the events of Civil War, it's mostly just been like those two. So if we have another person that's kind of like like a bigger character to interact with them. I think that's really fun. And again, that's just like a small snippet that was pulled from like apparently that was in the comics. There's no reason
Yeah.
that actually would be like, or there's no guarantee that would be what happens with this character going forward. But I just think it's interesting because, like I said, like we have Snow Vision doing something, and we don't even really know when he's going to pop on. There's some theories that maybe he was going to appear in Doctor Strange, which didn't happen. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's cool and exciting, and
Yeah. The other thing that from the wiki that stood out to me as being something that I'd like them to dig into is that I guess part of his backstory is that he either is or was an actor and then like also kind of a stuntman at some point. Like I guess maybe before he had powers, or maybe the stuntman made his or maybe having powers made him just the best stuntman ever kind of thing. But I think that's a fun route to go down because we haven't really seen that in the MCU. I can't think
No.
of a character who comes from a backstory in like entertainment like that that ends up being a big character. But yeah, I think this, like, I don't know, maybe there is such a defined character for this guy that it's like for the people who've read those comics know exactly what they're going to do with it. But to me, he seems like a bit more of a blank slate in a way where this is a Disney Plus show that we know that they're making, right? Like, is this maybe they set him up and he's like a villain, and he's a villain in a movie. They take him down and then he like joins the good guys. Like they could go a route like that, or he could just be another Avenger, or he could be just off doing his own thing the whole time, kind of Moon Knight style. So yeah, I don't know. There's a lot they could do with this, and I'm curious to see more. I'm curious to see some casting. But I will say, like, yeah, from Shang-Chi director and get someone with comedy chops in there helping out. Like that's exciting to me. I think that's a good combo, and I'm curious and excited. I will say to learn more about this character.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when I first saw that, like he is a actor slash stuntman, like my first mind or my first thought on that is it just goes to, like Johnny Cage from Mortal Kombat. And I think that would just be
Mm.
so funny, especially if we have some like comedy, people, like the individuals that were behind Brooklyn Nine-Nine and Community. I think that could be really funny because Johnny Cage is just such a ridiculous character that he's like this
Mm.
badass fighter, but he's also just like an actor, and like I think that could be really humorous. And then obviously if he's a superhero, he'd be an awesome stuntman if he has super strength and super speed and all these things.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting. I'm very excited to just find out more about it because they haven't like detailed like his origins or like really how he just his just general concept with the character on the MCU side of it. Like they haven't really mentioned anything like that. So again, this will be another one which once we get more information,
Mm-hmm.
we'll be relaying it on the podcast. But yeah, I think it's not like my number one choice of characters that I would have liked to
Sure.
have their own show. But if we're going down the realm of just getting bigger and crazier in the MCU, like have this just new Wonder Man character that
Mm-hmm.
has just a classic list of superpowers, I think I think it'll be good.
Yep. Definitely.
Cool. Yeah. Anything else on Wonder Man?
No, not yet.
No. Yeah. I mean, it would have helped if we have like, oh, Wonder Man was my favorite character growing up. Like I have all of his comics. Unfortunately, that's not us.
Yeah.
So apologies to if that's you. Because I don't even know if Travis has like much knowledge on this character. He probably knows of him, but like I'm sure he hasn't
Yeah.
sought out like the comic issues with this character on there. It's just
Right.
I feel like there's more interesting ones as opposed to someone that's just like a generic superhero guy. But who knows? Maybe it could be my new future favorite in the MCU.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Let's see. Anything in the comments before I move on? Didn't Nathan Fillion play or was supposed to be play a version of him in the first Guardians of the Galaxy? That is a question for someone else because I don't know anything about that. Dylan, do you know about that? Yeah, no.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, apologies on the game, but that actually wraps us up. That was our last
Mm-hmm.
news topic of the day. Thank you so much to everybody in the chat that we had all in
Mm-hmm.
the game, S-Bobs, and it was just great to have them in the chat, give us some
Squad.
information. Thanks so much to Dylan for joining me on a Saturday. Very rare.
Mm-hmm.
Like two-man cast,
Saturday morning, yeah.
they're yeah, Saturday. Two-man casts are becoming a lot more regular, on the
Mhm.
podcast, which is fun. Have different top points with different people. But the Saturday two-man, that's like I feel like that's a first of
Yeah, I think
of
Saturday
anything.
morning is really just like after 9 happens there, or like if we do streams. But otherwise, for a newscast, it's pretty rare. And yeah, also like because we do a lot of side quest 2-man casts, but I don't think we've ever done a 2-man cast for strictly a newscast. Like I think we've done a few
No.
reviews, but like I don't think we've ever done just a 2-man newscast with us, especially
No,
not on
it's
Saturday morning. So
absolutely not. Yeah,
fun.
it's fresh and it's nice. It's a good
Mm-hmm.
little change of pace, you know. And last week we were going to war in the finals for strikers, so
Mm-hmm.
it's nice this week, you know. It's you're the champion. I'll give it
Saturday
to you.
morning's
You
our
you
time,
won.
apparently.
It is. You know, I'll give you all the credit. You kicked my ass in that, but I'm very excited for whenever that next strikers thing happens because
Mm-hmm.
yeah, no, I've learned a thing or two in that game, and
Oh,
I think, you know, if I could run it back, I might have stood a chance of maybe
all
not
right,
letting
all
you
right.
get to double digit points. You kicked my ass 11-4 in that one, but anyways, thanks to everybody that joined for this episode. Tune in next time. We got so much
Mhm.
things coming out. I forgot to even promote. We have our side quest. Dylan and I.
Mhm.
You know, I'm gonna be
True.
joining him for side quest coming up
It's gonna be a
this
fun one.
Tuesday.
Lot of topics there. Yep.
Yeah, no, I'm very, very excited. I'm excited to share some things that I've encountered on my PlayStation and some other things there. So who
Ooh.
knows? Maybe tune in more for that. And yeah, so until next time, it won't be boring. And see you around.
Bye bye.